Test, 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 test. Okay. Looks like it's coming through okay. Okay, good to see you up. Just gonna get my notes. Okay, getting organized over here. Should be ready to go in about 2 minutes or so. Okay, so stream is up. Looks good. Notes good. Manga panels and the debate. Okay, I think that's everything. We'll just start in just a second. Okay. Getting that out of the way first. That's good. It'd be nice to have some warmer weather sometime in the eventual future. Okay, anyway. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you've all had a great week. No major earth-shattering updates over here as usual. Everything is pretty consistent. I am excited to to have gotten the chance to play a little bit of Elden Ring on stream. That's been a lot of fun. Definitely one of my favorite games, and getting a chance to, or taking the time rather, to delve into it with a, I guess, a bit of a slower approach and chat about it with people has been really cool. The Naruto streams have been a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for coming by, whichever streams you've been able to meet, or to attend rather. It's been awesome to continue the conversation over the past few weeks, both on stream and on Discord. Really, really appreciate it. A lot of great questions, a lot of great ideas and suggestions that have been coming out of these conversations. So it's really very much appreciated. Just want to state that up front. As for tonight, a couple of people expressed interest in discussing some Dragon Ball stuff. So I actually was absolutely like addicted to Dragon Ball when I was a kid, or obsessed with it is a better word. I think it's the first manga that I ever read, like the full series through. So all the way from, you know, volume 1 through Dragon Ball Z. And it, I think, awakened like that weeaboo side of me. So I haven't actually read through it, like the whole series, in a long time. And especially with the like power scaling perspective, if you want to call it that, looking for ways to make hypothetical arguments, or even just applying more critical or like close analysis kind of perspective. I haven't done that. And so I appreciate the incentive, I guess, or like the motivation to specifically look at this fight and look at it in more detail than I might have otherwise. In case you're just tuning in or stumbled across the stream or whatnot, the premise of tonight's discussion, of course, we can kind of take it freeform and you know, we'll see how things go. We can always divert attention if we need to. But the premise, the core focus of tonight's stream is talking about the Super Buu, or sorry, the Kid Buu versus Buuhan fights. If I'm understanding the names correctly, Kid Buu refers to evil Buu or pure Buu, like the final form that we see at the end of the series during the final confrontation. And Buuhan is the version of Buu that absorbs Mystic Gohan, as well as Gotenks and Piccolo. Although I believe at the time he absorbs Mystic Gohan, Gotenks has separated inside him, right? So it's more like Goten plus Trunks plus Piccolo plus Mystic plus I guess Fat Buu is obviously part of that equation too. I don't think I'm missing anybody. I might have missed somebody, question mark. I guess technically speaking, he's supposed to have the that other like strong Kai absorbed into him too, right? Like the first one that he ever absorbed. We don't see him inside there, so I'm not sure how that factors in, or if it even does. But the idea is to go over a debate which now that I've kind of spent a little bit more time on the subject, I understand it's a debate that has been going on for a long time, and people feel pretty strongly about. Probably one that I'm guessing the community considers mostly resolved at this point. It seems like there's a pretty strong consensus on at least how people feel about it. So recognize that like I'm more of a Naruto expert, if I can even call myself that. I don't even think that's fair. I'm like a nerd who is obsessed with Naruto and knows quite a lot about Pain and Itachi and Kakazu, but I wouldn't call myself a Naruto expert either. And I am less familiar with Dragon Ball. So wading into the waters here of a discussion that's been going on for a long time that people have already thoroughly explored, just want to admit that my goal here, it would be pretty arrogant for me to say that I have this all figured out, and that I'm going to give anybody definitive answers for anything. Especially since I haven't like gone through all of the data books, which I guess there's like 7 of the main data books. Of course, not all of them are going to be relevant to this particular matchup, but there's a huge amount of data in the series that I haven't gone over yet. So what I want to try to do instead of that is to talk about what I noticed in this fight, specifically going over the details of what characters are saying, how they're interacting with one another. I think that we can get a pretty clear picture without even worrying about calcs or any really complicated scaling, just by going off of the fact that we do have quite a lot of evidence on one side and maybe not so much on the other. It just kind of, a very clear picture kind of starts to emerge as we go through the chapters themselves. So all of that, just to kind of summarize what I was trying to say there, is like, I'm not as informed on this topic in particular as I am about Naruto, but I don't, maybe arrogant of me to say, I don't know that you need to do a ton of research on this particular topic. I feel like just spending a little bit of time on it, I can at least, point out some clues that I was able to find, that I'm sure others have noticed too, and kind of explain the conclusion that I came to anyway. And then we can apply all of that to the debate between Aero and Torrus, which I listened to a couple times. And overall, I think it was pretty good. It's one of those things where I'm noticing that people will tend to get kind of bogged down on one or two things over the course of a debate, and by the end, I don't feel like the flow of debates sometimes are not like as dynamic and exciting as, say, the fights that they're talking about. Because oftentimes arguments will center or focus around just a couple of core concepts, and if people can defend those concepts pretty strongly, then they, I guess, don't tend to worry too much about the peripheral points. There's more of a focus on whatever the core strongest aspects are, as opposed to like building this super wide spanning argumentation, if that makes sense. So that's why I really appreciate the Noodles versus Weeaboo Warrior debate, because they go over, like, Weeaboo goes over like everything that Pain can do for the most part. Talks about every single ability, I think. I think he left out a couple of animal summons, but apart from that, he still, or maybe not even, maybe he did go over them all. Anyway, point being, I appreciate the need to kind of stick to one's guns, and also the idea that, like, as long as you have one thing that you can definitively prove, then all you have to do really is just demonstrate that to be true. And then it doesn't really matter what other peripheral arguments are if you've got the one trump card type thing. But it does kind of make for slightly less dynamic debates, I guess. So comparing the Weeaboo Warrior debate to the one that Noodles just did with Apollo recently, Noodles really only has a couple of points that he sticks to, that he tries to get across. Or I guess I'll say that there were a couple of points that wound up being the focus of the like 90-minute discussion, and then there was a lot of contention around those points, to the point where, like, Apollo didn't even get to his scaling about Pain, more due to Noodles rage quitting than a failure on Apollo's part or anything like that per se. But still, it was like they were talking about Kakazu's durability, and then they were talking about whether it's in character for Yukito to fire off Biju bombs when she's alive. and there weren't too many other like core things mentioned because they just got bogged down in those. Similarly with this, I think that the main arguments that were brought up were whether or not the translation was accurate and reliable, and whether or not the statement about about Kid Buu lollygagging was valid. So I say this jokingly. Don't actually do this, please. But jokingly, you could play a drinking game listening to this debate. Anytime somebody says lollygagging, take a shot. You'll last maybe 10 minutes. I've never heard the word lollygagging used cumulatively over the course of my life more than I have in this one video the first time I listened to it. So that was a lot of fun. Arrow as well, I will say, he has a reputation for being pretty spicy. And I excuse me, I tried to listen to the Dabura debate as well. I'm interested in the topic. I'd definitely be happy to talk about Dabura as a character and like any versus battle involving him later. But that debate, there definitely was some hostility that I couldn't get behind. I think wasn't it Arrow was making fun of the other guy's stutter and saying that he was like wasting his time and acting kind of like very impatient and very, I don't know, just entitled or something. I don't know what the right word for it is, but his attitude was just a kind of hostile that didn't seem like the you know, shake hands and go at each other and then shake hands afterwards type stuff we were talking about last time. This debate though, Arrow versus Torrus, did seem more along those lines. Like they got a little heated. I believe that Arrow said at one point that he was going to drag Torrus's British ass through the dirt or something to that effect. But then like 5 minutes later, they laughed about it, and Arrow was like, you know, kind of admitted that he had a rough day or something, and he apologized for it. So those little spikes of spiciness can be pretty entertaining as long as everybody kind of agrees at the end of the day. Either that they're like cool with each other, or at least that when they start the debate, like they both understand what they're getting themselves into and there's consent involved, for lack of a better word, then that's cool. And it definitely did seem like that was the case with this debate. So, yeah, to recap, we're just going to go through the chapters. I'm going to point out anything that I noticed. Feel free to jump in at any time with any questions, challenges, clarifications, anything really. And other than that, yeah, I think it's about time to get started. Okay, so I'm starting off. The source I'm using for this, by the way, is Weeb Central. Used to be Manga C. I think this is just their new like mirror or platform or whatever you want to call it. Starting off on chapter 301, and at this point in the series, Gotenks is fighting Super Buu. Gotenks is just, I guess it's Super Gotenks, right? Because he's Super Saiyan 3. And as we can see, they're going at each other, and they're both able to damage each other and keep up with each other. And so I think it's just fair to say that the two of these characters are relative. Neither of them seems to be able to blitz the other one and totally destroy them. It looks like probably Super Gotenks would have been able to take care of him here, but it's not 100%. It did look like he had the advantage though. So they're relative, maybe with Gotenks having a slight advantage. So then Gotenks goes back to normal. Obviously, he's not able to keep up with Majin Buu, or Super Buu. Keeping in mind also that what I noticed going through these chapters is that Majin Buu, in his various forms, doesn't seem to have super high durability. Like base Goku in a few chapters we'll see when he gets resurrected, he teleports in and he cuts him in half with a Kienzan, presumably. And when he does that, it just goes right through him, and then he regenerates after that. In the like final chapters, we see multiple characters, including I think Vegeta and like Fat Buu, manage to blow like chunks out of Kid Buu. And so the impression that I'm getting, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Buu just doesn't have very high base durability. It's more about his regeneration and survivability, and that's his strongest asset. Like here, right, he's obviously gotten beat up, but he doesn't seem worried about it. He just immediately, like, literally flips in between one panel and the next without any signs of exertion or steam coming off him or anything like that. He's just fine. He goes from this to fine. So that seems to definitely be one of his strongest assets. So let's keep going. So here, Goku rather, just acknowledging the fact that they are definitively below him and will be killed at this point. Going further, I love his like prankster attitude. So now this is the sort of stuff that won't necessarily fly in a debate, but just as a reader of an author's work who's trying to convey emotion and intention through emotion, look at the amount of shock and awe on these characters' faces, including Goku. Like here, he's not just surprised. Like the degree of intensity of shock on his face to me indicates he's not just surprised that Gohan is stronger than he was before. The raw level of power that's coming off of him is like almost unbelievable to him. Like, look at the shock on his face, right? He says, it's amazing, it's insane, I don't believe it, you haven't changed on the outside, you're not even Super Saiyan, but I didn't even know this was possible. So Goku, at this point, I think this just establishes that, Mystic Gohan, I think is what people call him, right? Mystic Gohan is superior to Super Saiyan 3 Goku. You could contest this by saying, oh, well, maybe Goku is just saying that he didn't think it was possible for Gohan specifically. But I don't know. I think that the narrative implication here is that he's just stunned at the fact that this amount of power is coming off of anybody at all. Obviously, debate context, that's contentious. It's just how I'm interpreting this as I'm going through, right? Okay, so talking about going to the Earth. Can't go with you anymore, right? So no scaling info here. Let's just skip past the, sweet, powerful, emotional moments between father and son. That's not relevant to power scaling. Why the fuck would we want to read through that? To be honest, I do tend to find that when you spend a lot of time trying to do calcs and comparisons and stuff, it just like scaling rather, it can result in you just skimming through a lot of the real heart and soul of the story, because you're like, okay, stop talking, I have a deadline, I need to just figure out how strong these characters are, and it's a little bit unfortunate. My hope is that talking about stuff like this helps, like to me, when the matchup was suggested, hey, can you react to this debate, I was excited because I was like, okay, cool, now I have a structured task, so to speak, that will motivate me to go and study this and then learn more about it and appreciate it more, as opposed to, oh shit, now I just gotta focus on the fights and nothing else. But when I was working on the Itachi versus Pain video, kind of felt the opposite happening. All I could focus on myopically was the was the stuff relevant to the assignment, so to speak. Anyway, so we get the statement from Piccolo that he's merely touring with us, or maybe he's plotting something. I think later on Buu does say something to the effect that he detected Gohan's power out there, distantly in the universe, and wanted to confirm his strength. So I think that's what's happening here, right? He's just waiting for him to show up, detects him. Something I want to try to keep in mind is, I have some notes written down about this too that we could go back and refer to in a second, but one of the things that came up in the debate is whether or not Piccolo was able to sense the depths of people's power, and they used the fact that he was able to, he has a statement about a character being the strongest, and then another statement along that says Piccolo can sense the depths of someone's power, therefore he's correct. But Piccolo actually seems to be somewhat limited in his ability to perceive chi. Mystic Gohan seems to be better. So first of all, he's confused here. Granted, this isn't about power, but it's just worth noting if we want to sort of question or evaluate his ability to sense ki or chi. He thinks it's Goku. He's mistaken. And yeah, nothing else to say about that right now. But just keep in mind, listen to what Piccolo is saying about chi over the course of the next few chapters, because that'll become relevant to the when we analyze the debate. He says Gohan something is different, his features, but also a different sort of chi, and he's no longer sweet and gentle, or so sweet and gentle. He might almost be a different man. So honestly, I kind of wish that they had gotten into this a little bit more, unless it's in the preceding chapters and I just forgot. Like, the idea that he is maturing as an individual or getting a little darker, a little bit more bloodlusted or something. That seemed to be what they were hinting at. There's a vague parallel to when Naruto does the training in front of the waterfall when he's learning how to use the Rasen Shuriken for the first time. And then it's kind of revealed that he trained for like thousands upon thousands of hours. And when he shows up, Yamato says to Kakashi, like, he's like a completely different man. He's not the same person anymore. That's not the exact line, but right, like, it's something along those lines, that he's essentially matured and become more serious. And we see that in the way that he approaches the fight. He's much more like tactically minded, sends out the shadow clones as like a initial survey, as opposed to just like rushing in headlong and yelling angrily like he usually does. So wish we kind of, from a narrative standpoint, would be cool to hear a little bit more about how the process of powering up with the Kai and all that became more effective, or affected him as a person. Although you can kind of see it in his expression, right? He's like, I guess it's sort of like the Hulk, like, that's my secret, I'm always angry type thing. He seems to be able to tap into a kind of rage that he can access without fully breaking the way he did in the Cell fight. So maybe that's the implication. Maybe like the barrier between his sweet and more tender kind of personality, like more naive personality, and the rage monster side of him, maybe they've kind of blurred a little bit and he's able to access it a bit more freely. Wonder about that. But anyway, so obviously, so this is interesting, right? This is what I was talking about. Piccolo here says, what's he doing? He can't win one-on-one. So when they say later that Piccolo can sense the depths of people's power, he should be able to sense the depths of Mystic Gohan's power and then determine that he can, like, that he's got like hidden power basically. But he fails at doing this. Obviously, as we can see, Mystic Gohan just like handily disassembles Super Buu over here, and he absolutely can win. If it was just a one-on-one, like, enclosed environment fight to the death with no distractions or whatever, then yeah, Gohan absolutely would be able to kill him based on what we see here. So Piccolo's assessment here is just incorrect. There's something that he's not seeing. Anyway, so they fight, and Gohan is clearly, you know, what's the expression, mopping the floor with him. Now granted, so far Buu is not actually attacking Gohan, so we don't currently have any feats of like what Gohan's durability versus his attacks are. But I mean, look, he's hitting him so hard that he's like, his eyes are bulging out of his skull. He's like surprising him from behind. I think this would count as this is almost a blitz, right? Because he perceives it, but he's still like getting smacked and he doesn't have time to react to it. So it's just not a contest whatsoever. And again, gets behind him before he can. He's like still looking for him up here. He gets behind him. It's no contest. And all these three are like totally shocked at what they're seeing. And basically, if nothing else happened in the debate, no more transformations or anything, Gohan would have totally defeated him, which I don't think is a controversial thing at all. Just bringing that up to kind of emphasize Piccolo's credibility there. That you can't win, not against me. And I think this expression, right, he's very well aware of it, which is why he starts saying this stuff and why he like self-detonates. Dr. Pest, H&H, hey, how's it going? How's your week been going? It's good to see you guys. I basically just got started going through the chapters here and trying to look for things that we can obviously like use for the scaling discussion, things that we can identify as like nuggets or whatnot, or like data points rather, to refer to later. And then also, you know, having listened to the debate a couple times, going back and listening for things that maybe they mentioned during the debate, I think there can be a little bit of back and forth between the debate and the manga itself. So far we're at Mystic Gohan. I believe that's the term. I've heard people refer to him as quote-unquote Mystic Gohan after he gets the power-up from, was it Kaioshin? So I'm using that term. Hopefully it's accurate. And yeah, so at this point in the fight, this is chapter 304. Majin Buu, I think here is basically very explicitly admitting defeat and running away to try to develop a new strategy. Interesting to note. So I'd be curious if you guys have a take on this stuff. I've noticed that over the course of reading these chapters, there are many different instances of somebody doing an attack that somebody else says that would have destroyed the Earth, right? So going back to the previous chapter, was it when Gotenks was using his machine gun? What is it called? The attack when he's... Oh yeah, so here we go. A blast like that could sweep away the Earth without a trace. So this is Majin Buu using an attack coming out of the ground, and Piccolo saying, like, of this magnitude, like a large spherical attack, or conical attack, and Piccolo saying that could destroy the Earth, and then Gotenks doing these explosions, and then Piccolo also saying that can destroy the Earth. I'm curious about the credibility of those statements, because this is a pretty large explosion, but nowhere near the size of the planet. Same thing with, unless the planet is just like substantially smaller than Earth. Same thing with this. Like, I guess if he's implying this amount of power, if it were directed at the Earth, would have enough power to tunnel through and push through to the other side. That makes sense. But anyway, compare that to later in this fight. There's a couple of instances, like when Kid Buu first shows up, he shoots a very small, comparatively, a very small projectile towards the ground, and Vegeta intercepts it and like saves them. And there's another statement that could have blown up the Earth. So I think there's like 4 or 5 different things in this fight alone that are suggestions of attacks that can blow up the Earth, and they're all of like different size and shape and magnitude. So I'm just curious, you know, not informed enough to really talk about it in great detail. I'm just curious about how the like DC scaling for things like that happen. Is this blast looks like it's way bigger, but we don't get any statements about this blowing up the Earth. Yeah, see, if that's what he was doing, he'd have destroyed the whole Earth. So he can, I don't know, it seems to me like it might be kind of challenging to scale some of the DC feats in this arc, at least based on a like initial reading of it. So interestingly here, Piccolo says that he can't feel his chi, and Gohan says he can hide his chi. Now that's not like Piccolo failing per se, but it is, I guess, worth noting that he, you know, that Majin Buu is capable at a baseline of hiding his chi and maybe hiding his full potential. So when people try to evaluate his power, yeah, so going back to the debate, if people are trying to evaluate Majin Buu's power, and Piccolo is supposed to be the best one, and he can't do it accurately, and also Majin Buu can hide his own chi, then putting that all together provides us with an explanation for why, like, when Majin Buu gets smaller, Goku and Vegeta, who should be, you know, able to sense chi and stuff like that, Goku and Vegeta still like have this moment where they're like, oh, he's smaller now, we can take him. So you could look at that stuff as just like plot-induced stupidity, or you could say, well, maybe yes, but there's also alternate explanations for that. Like, it's just hard to figure out how much power Majin Buu has at any given time, right? So, this is another moment here too, right? Like, this is not saying that Piccolo can't sense the chi, but Gohan, it's interesting that Gohan notices it before he does, and he has to be told, right? So, let's keep going. I'm glad that they keep the dog. Obviously they would, but still. Goten is so happy about the puppy. Okay. So I think there's not much here. We can keep on going to the next chapter, I believe. Yep. This is all good. Just checking my notes to see if there's anything else in 304 that I've written down. Oh, wait a minute. I think I missed something. One sec. Oh, yeah, okay. This little statement over here, not that it's earth-shattering or anything, but Kaioshin saying, I wonder what is Buu up to, not that he'll win, right? Like, his assessment based on the previous fight is that he can't beat Gohan. This is just another, not that anybody really needs this per se, but just a little extra reinforcement of the power differential between those two characters. Um, H&H says, pretty sure DBC at this point is very concretely planet level in terms of DC. Okay. The repetition of these statements are really weird, though, for sure. It's probably saying, like, if he directed it at the Earth, he'd destroy it. Oh, okay, gotcha. So it's maybe not a function of the size of the, like, the radius of the blast or whatever, more about the amount of ki inside it. And all of those attacks are, like, the other characters are sensing that they're each of them capable of destroying the Earth based on the amount of power, like, inside them at a baseline, as long as they actually hit the Earth. That would make sense. Okay, so going on to 305. Okay, so nothing immediately that I noticed here, apart from the bait here. And Piccolo's kind of smart enough to know something's up. Okay. Interesting. Gohan is, so my interpretation of his reaction here is that he's definitely, like, surprised or impressed to a certain extent that Gotenks is capable of demonstrating this amount of power. That being said, he definitely doesn't go like, oh my god, he's so strong, you know, he can totally do this. He's not shocked in general, and I don't think he has an expression that indicates that Gotenks is stronger than him. So in Mystic Buu over Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, not surprisingly, especially given, like, what we said about their relativity before. This is pretty cool. Or kind of funny, I guess, to note that just a part of Buu, like this sheet, this you know, smothering, I don't know if there's a term for this appendage of his, this blob or whatever, is strong enough to restrain, and, like, the restrictive force is stronger than the force that Gotenks here can output to push away from it. And despite the fact that we've seen Gotenks be able to damage Buu before, he doesn't seem to be able to get rid of this. So is this, like, a denser material? Is this thicker? Does it have more ki input into it or something like that? Or is it, like, sapping his energy? Probably not. But okay. Something that I wonder about, if this would count as plot-induced stupidity, if there's another explanation that I'm not familiar with, but, like, why doesn't Gohan just blitz Majin Buu before this happens? Like, why is he standing there? Maybe we could argue that he's just being cautious and doesn't want to, like, harm, like, do something if he doesn't know what's going to happen to them. But at the same time, we've seen him to be capable of, you know, essentially blitzing him, very nearly blitzing him, and doing a lot of damage to him. So why not just dash to him and, like, kick him, keep him away from that material? Is he just being overly cautious? Not sure. So Goku's reaction here. Oh, 1 second, I'm sorry, I missed a comment. Also, it may be valuable to look into separate translations for that statement as well, because I know that Viz can mess up Dragon Ball pretty bad unless you just want to focus Viz for the sake of the debate. Yeah, I think I will, just for the sake of the debate, just because that's what I have access to. But if you have a suggestion, like, I just go to Weeb Central for scans these days. If you have a suggestion of another scan, I'd definitely be happy to check it out and see how it compares. Even if it's a fan scan, it can sometimes be useful to see the perspective that other people have. I have heard that Viz has a pretty bad reputation for the translations on DBZ, which is weird. So yeah, if you have any suggestions on that regard, I'd be happy to check it out. But I am kind of pretending, at least for the sake of the conversation, that these scans are accurate, just to, like, kind of as you were suggesting, I think, just to maintain focus for the debate. My interpretation of Goku's reaction here is that he sorry, is, like, the urgency in his tone and his voice and suggestion that he has to kill Buu now indicates to me that Goku is assessing this and saying, okay, Buu's power plus Gotenks' power is going to be superior to yours, you know, Gohan. At this point, you have the disadvantage. And I think that winds up being demonstrated to be the case. So this is something that comes into the debate, and I don't have a hardline stance on it right now, but I think it's worth considering. So Majin Buu here says, "What do you think, Gohan? A splendid success for me and an honor for you, I'd say, for you witnessed the birth of the most powerful Jin of all time, past, present, and future." So if Majin Buu is capable in his current, more sentient or self-aware form of remembering who he was even when he was in his wild berserker pure evil form, then the Jin there that he's referring to, the Majin, would include his previous form. So this form would therefore be stronger, and then as long as we agree that Buuhan, the next form, is even stronger, which I think is pretty obviously true, then this means that this end Buuhan would be stronger than Kid Buu. Some people have countered this by saying that, okay, well, he's just boasting because, first of all, how could he predict the future? How could he know what's going to come in the future? And would Toriyama really be writing himself into a corner there and saying, okay, so he can never, ever, in any subsequent Dragon Ball, make a stronger version of a Majin character without contradicting what Majin Buu is saying over here? Does that really seem reasonable? Or is it more like Gotenks being arrogant and bragging and boasting and all that is just, kind of grandstanding here? And we should take this with a grain of salt because, he's basically just showing off and saying things that are not necessarily realistic or whatever. Either way, I think it's pretty clear that he's stronger than Gohan, so that's still relevant for our scaling. I don't know for sure about the past, present, and future thing, but it's worth considering because there's another similar statement that comes up again soon. So he's absorbed them. Okay, so this is interesting too. He says, "I was supposed to be the strongest. I began to form this plan when I first sensed your presence far from Earth and realized that you might prove stronger than I. So I thought if I should absorb Super Gotenks, I should surely be able to retain my title regardless of who should appear." Okay. So I was supposed to be the strongest. I thought he said something about his previous self. Fortunately, the brat mentioned that he had limited time. Not wanting him to shift back to the moment I absorbed him, I had to wait for the next window of opportunity. I needed stall only an hour until the creature honored me with his reappearance. Okay, so when I first read this, I was wondering, I guess, if this was indicating that, what is that? Is that, oh, that's his chin. That was a second mouth. What the fuck? Anyway, so I guess you could say here that this is Buu saying his previous self, when he was in Super Buu form, Super Buu thought of himself that he was the strongest categorically, so the strongest in the universe or something like that. If he considered himself to be the strongest as Super Buu, then Super Buu would be stronger than Kid Buu, and therefore Mystic Gohan would also be stronger than Kid Buu. But this is totally open to interpretation, right? Does this mean the strongest in the universe currently alive at that time? Or does that mean the strongest thing that's ever existed throughout history? Or all time, or whatever. H&H says, "I think saying Toriyama's writing himself into a dead end with the past, present, and future thing as a contention is kind of odd because I don't think it's necessarily bad writing, considering that, as said before, it's very likely Buu has no way of knowing." Yeah, that's, I think that was what I was trying to articulate. I probably kind of stumbled a little bit there. Basically, I think maybe we would agree that Buu himself doesn't necessarily have the ability to predict the future, and it's more consistent with his character that he'd just be bragging. And so I would consider this statement, but I wouldn't necessarily take it as any kind of definitive proof that, okay, because Buu said this, then yes, he's definitely the strongest ever, and there will never be another stronger version of himself. Because for this to be, that's what I should have said to start with. For this to be true, it would mean that Mystic Gohan does not get stronger than this. And I think we'll see very clearly that Mystic Gohan, that Buuhan is stronger than this. So his statement about this being the strongest of past, present, and future is inaccurate just based off of that. I hope that made sense. the word, the all the names are getting jumbled up. Okay, so that's what it was about. You sucked up some speaking skills from Piccolo, but you're still not that smart. He's pretty smart, honestly. If you wanted to be the strongest, why didn't you absorb me? Okay, so this is again arrogance. There's more evidence right here that his arrogance might be just getting in the way. Okay, so moving on to the next one. White ephemeral. So already, like, obviously his reaction time and response is much better. He's showing less, like, much less frustration on his face. Totally able to dodge all of his attacks. Yeah. Doing quite a lot of damage. I don't think we saw the previous incarnation of Buu being able to do anything like this to Gohan. Look at all the, like, the intensity of the expression on his face. He's, like, terrified. Yep, you have no chance. He's totally calm. Gohan's like desperate already. He's already reincorporated one of Gotenks' techniques as well, which is cool. He's just like taunting him. He could probably win here, right? Like if he wanted to end the fight immediately, he could. And then I think this is Goku speaking also, has come to that same conclusion that like Gohan is done. So definitively, I don't know what the official term for this guy is. Super Buu is just stronger than Mystic Gohan, like definitively. Hey, Mr. Narrative, thanks for stopping by. How's it going? How's everything going? How's your week been? You didn't miss all that much. Basically, the stream so far has been, there was a bit of an introduction, and basically to recap, me just saying that I'm going through the chapters in the Buu relevant to the Kid Buu versus Buuhan fight, and just looking for anything that I can. Oh, his name is Buu. Okay, Buu. That makes sense. So just looking for any little snippets that I can find to then try to relate back to the debate, or little nuggets of like, okay, this is part of the scaling chain, etc., etc. So far, there's a pretty simple back and forth. Like one character will get stronger and beat the other, then the other, like Buu will get stronger than beat the other character, pretty discreetly. And I also mentioned a couple of panels where, so during the debate, they brought up the fact that Piccolo should have the ability to see the depths of someone's power, and has like apparently the best key sensing ability out of all these guys. But he makes a few mistakes, or fails to detect key levels appropriately when like Mystic Gohan shows up. He's like, he doesn't think Mystic Gohan can win at first, and then until Mystic Gohan powers up. So it seems to me that we can possibly contend those statements in the debate regarding Piccolo's like perception. Everything else has been pretty straightforward, just like noticing, oh, this character beats this other character, or vice versa. So looking for little data points like that. Nice last minute save here by Gohan. Okay, we got an introduction of Vegeta over here. I always thought this little exchange here was hilarious as well. Everybody's expression. Toriyama does a really good job of maintaining, you know, maintaining levity sometimes, like amidst the end of the world crisis scenarios. Everybody's dying, they're getting eaten, they're getting smashed, they're getting pierced by these, like, you know, energy blasts from when like Super Buu kills everybody from the top of the lookout. But there's these little moments of levity and like Mr. Satan there as well. I'm probably gonna call him Mr. Satan because that's how I grew up, like reading his name, but I don't get like flagged by some YouTube content protection thing. Anyway, so yeah, it seems pretty clear that Buu could destroy Gohan here if he wanted to, right? He's literally just kind of torturing him, drawing out the time. Mr. Narrative asks, didn't Piccolo think Gohan was Goku? Yeah, so the first thing he said was like, is that Goku? And then he showed up. Or yeah, we can go back real quick. I think will be, was it like 302? Maybe the start of the next one. Yeah, so he said he doesn't recognize him at first, and then he says it's Goku, and then he says what, but how, and then where does he say it? He's like, yeah, what's he doing? He can't win one-on-one. And despite, like, so he's assessed Gohan's power here. He's like, I don't think he can do it. And then Gohan does this. And then obviously, like, Piccolo's shocked. So I think he misread. I don't think he really read the depths of Gohan's power. I think he assessed his power level where it currently was, and it was still super, super strong. But he didn't realize he could still get that much stronger, if that makes sense. Yep, here we go. H&H says, I just went to go to one of those fan translations for DBZ. Never again. The print is wild. Oh no, what was it? Was it just a bunch of like expletives? And I remember people were using like a scan of the 4th data book for one of the Naruto debates, and it was the page where it's like a fan translation of the page where Naruto uses the Rasen Shuriken on Pain, and he was literally saying, like, shut the fuck up, shut your fucking mouth, I'm gonna fucking kill you. It's just like, it was really intense. They definitely took some liberties with it. So if that's the sort of thing you're referring to, then yeah. Mr. Narrative asks, what are your thoughts on who wins? So I guess, like, spoilers or whatnot, but I think that it's probably Buuhan. I don't know for sure, but as I've gone through this a couple of times, I've seen a few data points that suggest to me that, well, basically, when Buu fights SSJ3 Goku towards the end of the fight, they're about relative, and there is a statement that he's holding back, but the fact is we don't see him have a better performance against a stronger opponent than what we see there, unless I'm missing something. So yes, he could hypothetically have a stronger performance, but how much stronger is unquantifiable, and I think that's still one of his, like, best showings. Is so his cap is, like, maybe unquantifiably higher than SSJ3, and maybe not all that much based on his performance during that fight. But Super Saiyan 3 Goku is way down the scaling chain behind multiple other characters that then leads up to Mystic Gohan. Or sorry, I keep saying Mystic Gohan. I meant to say Buuhan, right? Like Super Saiyan 3 Goku is relative to Super Buu, maybe no, he's actually below Super Buu, I think, because at one point he's like terrified that Super Buu is going to kill him, and then, although that might be another form, I gotta fact check myself on that one, but he's below whatever that form is, and then that form gets stronger, and then if you just follow the chain all the way up, it just seems like that version of Buu with all of those, like, summons absorbed or whatever, not summons, all those other people absorbed, is the strongest version. But as you can tell by the way that I kind of stumbled a little bit there, I need to actually go back and verify those feats and make sure I get the scaling chain correct. I didn't see any statements from anyone in the manga that said, hey guys, Kid Buu is definitely the strongest, he's the greatest threat we've ever fought, you know, you gotta watch out for this guy because he's undefeatable. And then what we do see is Super Saiyan 3 Goku holds his own against him and does pretty well until he runs out of power. And then Vegeta also, like, granted, Buu was fucking around with him just like he was with Mr. Satan, but Kid Buu also didn't, like, blitz and annihilate him with a single punch or anything like that. So I'm not seeing the evidence putting Kid Buu, like, at the top of the pile, but I am seeing, like, this gradual scaling chain of progression of power that puts Buuhan higher up than people that are relative to SSJ3, if that makes sense. Sorry, that was a whole big fucking word salad, but hopefully, like, you understand what I'm talking about. H&H says, I wish I could show you. It's, like, horribly grainy, like an old film reel. Oh no. Actually, I could send you a cord for later. Yeah, I'd be morbidly curious to see that. What's your scaling chain for the Buu saga? Let me I need to write it out because otherwise I'm just gonna, like, stumble over my words. So let me see what I got in my notes here. Right, so here's what I wrote down before. So Super Buu is on the same, it's like basically on par with Super Gotenks. When Gotenks gets powered down, like he no longer has oh sorry, so when when Gotenks separates, that separated like duo of them is below Super Buu. Gohan is way above Super Buu and thus way above Gotenks. Buu Tank Colo Buu plus Gotenks plus Piccolo is so what did you just call him? Buu Tanks, yeah. Buu Tanks is above Mystic Gohan. Goku and Vegeta individually are less than Buu Tanks, but Mystic Gohan is superior to Buu Tanks as long as Super Gotenks is unfused within him, and Goku and Vegeta themselves individually are below Super Buu. And so basically, to summarize that, it's like Buuhan is the strongest version of Buu that we see before we get to Kid Buu. And then like Kid Buu's best showings are against Super Saiyan 3 and like against Super Saiyan 3. That's like the toughest thing that he fights, right, is Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And Super Saiyan 3 Goku is vastly eclipsed by all of the various power-ups that lead to getting to to Buuhan. So it's like Buuhan over Super Saiyan 3, and then Super Saiyan 3 is vaguely relative to Kid Buu. So Buuhan is over Kid Buu. Something like that. Do you have Kid Buu above base Super Buu? Let me think about that for a second. I think... Well, I don't know, because like Super Saiyan 3 Goku seemed... Let me see what I have here. I have to think about that some more. For the moment, I'm doing manga only just for simplicity. The way that I've heard it described is that the anime has its own continuity. So anime is part of the same canon or anime canon is its own thing, and it is valid. I would never go so far as to say that like the anime is not real or whatever. The anime doesn't count. Excuse me. It's just the anime kind of follows its own progression, whereas the manga has its own statement, its own progression. What I've heard from watching a few videos is that in the manga there are more statements like in the beginning of episode, or not the manga, in the anime there are more statements like in the beginning of episodes, and from statements of characters in the actual scenes explicitly saying that Kid Buu is the strongest, and it's more clear cut in that regard. So yeah. Oh hey 44B, how's it going? 44B says I only put Kid Buu over Fat Buu. Interesting. That might work, because like my notes are a little scattered. But my impression is that there just isn't all that much indicating that, like, pretty much nobody, right? Like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Pretty much nobody can take on Buu except for the fusion of Gohan and Trunks, or Goten and Trunks, especially in their Super Saiyan form. Right, and that includes Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Super Saiyan 3 Goku thought that he could defeat the Fat Buu, but not Super Buu. So if that's the case, and Kid Buu is relative to Super Saiyan 3, then that's already establishing that like Super Buu is above, potentially above Kid Buu in that regard. But that relies on this vague understanding of Kid Buu's maximum power. And the problem is that during the end of the fight, right, all we know about his maximum power output that's made explicit is that we don't know what his maximum power output actually is because he's holding back and fucking around. So there comes and we have to kind of get into the territory of interpretation of like, okay, well, do you think that Kid Buu would have like ripped off Goku's arm if he could? Like, remember that scene where he's like biting Goku in the arm and Vegeta's narrating about how great Goku is or whatever? Do you think that he actually has the AP to wound and mutilate Goku to that extent, and he's just fucking around and holding back to draw out the fight for fun? Or is that his maximum power? If that's his maximum power, if that's really the best he can do, and the drawing out thing is a reference to his regeneration, then we don't have any scaling that I'm aware of that puts Kid Buu over SHJ3. And considering that even like the base form of Super Buu is above SHJ3, then I think Kid Buu is also below Super Buu, and so Kid Buu is also below Gohan by like several rungs down the ladder. Hopefully that sounded fair. Mr. Narrative says, is it okay we hop in a call on Discord to talk about this? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I know I have like my Discord set up here. Would you want to try to jump into a call like on stream and chat about it? I don't have my server set up or anything like that beyond just having like an empty room. But yeah, we totally can. We can either do it on stream if you would feel like you want to do that, or we could follow up afterwards. I'm fine with whatever. Just be patient with me as I'm still obviously like formulating my my ideas. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Let's give it a try. I don't have any of the like cool overlays or anything set up yet. My bad. Okay, let's try this. Give me 1 second. Okay, you want me to just try to give you a call? In the meantime, yeah, let me check my settings real quick. Make sure my voice settings are okay. I'd actually love to have like a more fluid setup for this in the future. I was watching Six's stream the other day, and he was like, kind of had like a stage that people were kind of coming in and out of. Yeah, okay, 1 sec. Let me just verify my voice settings. I got the wrong mic input. 1-3. Check. Okay. And output is, where are you, buddy? Speakers. Okay. Test. Okay. Seems like that'll work. Yeah, let me try giving you a call. Let's see how it works. Let me know if it comes through.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on, man?
Not much. I appreciate you giving the feedback and sharing your thoughts. How do you feel about the scaling chain so far?
Okay, so you basically said that, yeah, I asked you about Super Buu being above Kid Buu.
Hmm.
And you think individually Goku and Vegeta are below Super Buu, so that would make them below, and Kid Buu is above Super Saiyan 3, or you said Kid Buu was relative to SSJ3.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because at the end of
So,
the fight, they're like going at each other, and they're pretty relative. Would you agree?
okay, I agree to an extent, but I think, okay, you said manga only, right? You don't want to do any anime shit?
Yeah,
No
but
anime
feel
shit?
free to bring up the anime stuff because I'm learning
Okay.
about the topic as I go. But like my perspective is just my arguments are being based on the manga because that's all I've read.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. I don't have to include because you know that the anime, at least the narrative of the anime is pretty blatant that they have Kid Buu as number one. You're
Right. That's
aware
what
of
I've
that, right?
heard. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. In the manga, it's a little more, I guess, interpretational. Like
Hmm.
Toriyama, I don't think Toriyama goes out of his way to flat out state Kid Buu is the strongest, but
Okay.
okay. So the thing about the Buu saga is it's very like shaky how the scaling goes because I think the most important thing to talk about when talking about the scaling is we have to find out how strong Goku is
Oh, sorry. Can I
individually.
interrupt you for a second?
Go
Um,
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
they're saying that your mic is kind of quiet.
Give me a second.
Are you able to boost it a little bit?
Yeah, let me go to Discord settings. Hold on. Let's see.
H&H, thanks for pointing that out. I'll actually one of these days I'll actually get my like a proper mixing set up so that I can like have better control over this. Thanks for your patience in the meantime.
Is this better?
It sounds okay to me. How about you guys? But yeah, keep feel free to keep on with what you're saying.
No.
I'll see if there's a
What
way
I
that I
was
can
gonna
boost
say
it more.
is, what I was gonna say is, Goku in this arc specifically, he likes to lie. Like he's very dishonest about his power.
Okay.
Cause I remember when Piccolo asked him, "Yo, did you think you could be Fat Buu?" After like he transformed Super Saiyan 3, everyone felt Super Saiyan 3, right?
Oh, right, right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yep.
And he's like, I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not.
Yep.
Basically,
Yep.
is what he tells him, right? And then when he's about to fight Kid Buu, this is both in the manga and anime, he's like, yeah, I could have killed him, but I wanted to give the kids a chance to try.
Yeah, I think he says that to Vegeta in a little bit here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, thing is people, because you said he's relative to Kid Buu,
Hmm.
which, it's fair to say, and, there's debates about whether Kid Buu was playing, was he holding back? I do believe Goku was fighting a nerfed Kid Buu in the beginning because he still had Fat Buu inside of him.
Oh, I
When he
see.
spit
Yeah.
out Fat Buu, he
Yeah,
spit
yeah.
out Fat Buu after, and when he saw Satan, and he spit out. And I think after that, I don't think anyone was able to fight against Kid Buu in even terms. Granted, Goku was out of stamina at that point,
Hmm.
but their only option was to use a Spirit Bomb. And okay, and this is the important thing, right? Because you said Kid Buu was below Super Buu. That would mean Gohan would be able to destroy him, wouldn't he?
Like the powered up Mystic Gohan, I think he would be
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, it doesn't make sense for Gohan to be able to beat him,
Hmm.
but they don't bring Gohan to the fight. Instead, they decide that the only way to win is with the Spirit Bomb.
Oh, yeah, I see what
Besides
you're saying. Like,
besides fusion.
yeah,
Besides fusion, of course.
yeah.
Besides fusion.
So,
Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
Oh no. So basically, what I'm trying to convey to you is, I think Goku, as individually, I would argue Goku is just stronger than what he lets on. I would argue that Goku Super Saiyan 3 at full power at the end of the Buu saga
Hmm.
should be above Gohan and Gotenks, because just for the simple, I don't know if you've seen Daima, right?
I
Have you seen
haven't yet.
Daima?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, without spoiling anything, there's a statement. Supreme Kai says that Goku is the strongest in the universe, and this is after the Buu saga.
Okay.
And then we also have in, I think it was episode 2 of Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta also states that after the fight with Majin Buu, Goku's the undisputed strongest in the universe, and that includes Gohan. Now you could argue, oh, Goku trained a little and Gohan stopped training, so yeah, Goku was able to surpass him,
Hmm.
right? But I think Toriyama, the way he set it up, because there's a statement in Daizenshuu where it says Goku and Kid Buu are like strongest. I don't know if you remember in the Arrow and Taurus debate. I think that's what he said. He said, "Fellow strongest." Like
Yeah,
Goku.
I have some thoughts about that,
Yeah, go
but keep
ahead.
going.
Oh,
Oh no,
okay. No.
yeah, you can
What I'm
finish.
trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, okay. I If you want to say Buuhan is stronger than Kid Buu, I'm not gonna really debate you on that because I think it's very interpretational, especially if it's just manga or if you're including manga and anime. I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
very up for debate. But I think Kid Buu has to be at least above base Super Buu, at the very least, because
Hmm.
it just doesn't like it. You understand what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense because if Kid Buu is really that weak, then they wouldn't be able. It wouldn't have been so hard to defeat Kid Buu. Like it was really hard to put down Kid Buu, really really hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and the Spirit Bomb. There's also arguments. I don't know if you heard it before, because people argue that the Spirit Bomb includes Gohan's energy, and it still wasn't enough
That's
to
true.
defeat
Yeah,
Kid Buu.
they had to have the
So,
like from the energy from like all across the Earth, or is it the whole universe as well?
it included. I think it included other parts of the universe. I
Mm.
mean, you have, I think people from Namek.
Oh,
I think
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
some people from the afterlife, if you include the anime too.
Yeah.
some people. Yeah. So it was all of Earth, and then it includes because Genki, like the energy used for the Spirit Bomb, is different from Ki, right? It's
Mm.
like more exponential. Like think of it as like you remember when in movie 8 when Goku beat Broly using the energy of the Z fighters?
Yes,
It's kind of like
so that
it's
was
kind
like
of
a
like
different.
that in a way.
That
It's
wasn't
kind of
just
like
like
that
a
in a way.
basic form of energy, or that's not the same
Yeah.
thing as like they're using during their own key blasts and something else. It's a different category, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. So if it, cause you know, what else? Also, there's also a scan. You don't have to like believe this because you could argue it's contradictory, but there's also a scan out there that says from I think it was from like a magazine that says something along the lines of Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Buuhan are on par in terms of power. Um,
Okay.
so if you include that, right, then Goku is definitely above Gohan if that's true, right?
That makes
But
sense, yeah. You mean like before like Gohan gets his power awakened by Kaioshin or whatever?
uh, no, after
Oh,
because
after,
if
okay.
he because Buuhan is Buu plus Gohan, so if he's on if he has power on par with Buuhan, then it would be he'll be above Gohan.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like to me, like a lot of this comes down to you've kind of pointed out some ambiguities in the or something that like makes it harder to scale things with precision when it comes to especially the later parts of the fight, right? Because you've said that um, Goku in Super Saiyan 3 or just Goku as a person doesn't always reveal his true power, and even like towards the end, like he and Vegeta do the Rochambeau and decide which one of them is going to attack first and all that. So is he actually ever like showing his full power? And then Buu as well, like we know that he's holding back. So is he ever showing his full power? Kid Buu, I mean, when he's fighting Goku in the end. So it kind of gets hard to say, okay, where are the actual like solid, firm bits of scaling that we can use to like prove these points in a debate? So I agree with you. I think there's a bit of wiggle room in terms of the interpretation. What I found personally going through this is that um, it was hard for me to find any specific data points that like specifically put Kid Buu over those other characters, like especially Buuhan. Um, they don't really speak about him in terms of his power having reached like some new level or anything like that, or having exceeded all the previous Buus, or like those are the things I would tend to look for. I guess we have him destroying the Earth, but we also have examples of other characters saying that the previous incarnations of him could also destroy the Earth. So I struggle to prove if it were my job in a debate to prove Buhan would win, I would find it hard to actually prove that. When it comes to Buhan, though, I think there's probably some argumentation around the relativity to Super Saiyan 3. I think I kind of agree with what you're saying about um, why wouldn't they bring Gohan along if he could just beat them, right? Like he had to go get stronger. But I think like if I just had to choose like where I have what's the term for it, like an adductive argument, like if I the greatest amount of evidence so far to me is falling towards Buhan, if that
Preponderance
makes
of
sense.
evidence.
Yeah,
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 I know what you. I get what you mean. Yeah. So that's why because Kid Buu only really has his fight against Goku. He only destroys the planet. And in the anime, he goes to heaven, and he was about to destroy it.
yeah.
But that's not in the manga. You want to do manga only for now. So I think there's also a statement where they say he Kid. I think it's talking about Kid Buu specifically. Oh, if we don't win here, the universe goes poof.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. So that so that's interesting because when it comes to like destroying the universe, right? There's
Mhm.
debate about whether or not Boo was gonna do the one shot, or if he was gonna do it it's like over time, right? Like over time. So they say, oh, he's probably gonna destroy. He's probably gonna go galaxy to galaxy,
Well, that
destroying it over time.
yeah, doesn't he have a statement that like I forget what chapter it's in, but that I can now go around the galaxy like spreading misery and destruction for as long as I please or something like that.
Yeah.
Um
But the thing is, this is my interpretation. I definitely think it's a lot closer. I'm not gonna say he destroys it in one shot because
Hmm.
he's probably not gonna do that. He's probably knowing Boo's character. He probably has fun going planet to planet and just destroying, eating people and all that.
Yep.
But I think it's closer to him destroying it in more or less one shot than just him literally going planet to planet, galaxy to galaxy, solar system to solar system, destroying it. Because it's the narrative has him as an immediate threat to the universe, an immediate threat.
Hmm.
Like, because if you look at the size of the universe, right? If he's going galaxy by galaxy, that would take even
It'll take a really long
if he
time. Yeah.
yeah, like if he destroys a galaxy every day, that's gonna take years. Even if it's like hundreds of galaxies a day, it's gonna take years, right? It's good. Like if you have an immediate threat, and even if like let's say they're able to kill, Kid Buu was able to kill Goku and Vegeta, right?
Hmm.
I mean, unless he destroys heaven, like and he destroys their bodies, they could, because Goku was able to interact in the afterlife while he was dead, and I mean Vegeta was literally dead
Mm, yep. Yep.
on the Kaioshin realm when they fought Kid Buu, so they could still fight. It's not if he kills them, but if he destroys the whole universe, afterlife included, then yeah, it's over, right?
Yeah, that
It's
makes
over.
sense. I think
So
he probably wants to keep some people around to fight with. But eventually, like he wants to kill them. He's not just gonna keep them as pets or whatever.
yeah,
So.
yeah, I think and this is another argument for Kid Buu. Like I think he says Goku says something like yo or somebody. I haven't read the manga in a while, but he says something along the lines like yo, if you don't beat him here, like that's it, the universe is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that pretty much means like yo, these are the last strongest fighters. These are the final defense. Goku and Vegeta were the final defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if Kid Buu kills them, then that's it. Nobody else can stand up to them, Gohan included, right? Gotenks included.
Yeah.
So that's why when just talking about Kid Buu's strength, you have to agree where does Goku at full power scale, because that's his only feat, fighting Kid Buu. I mean fighting SJ3 Goku. That's
Yeah.
his only
So
feat.
I guess what I would say is let's take a look at this little moment here, right? So this is in 308, and this is right before this is when Goku shows up and he's thrown the Potara to Gohan to try to fuse with him, right? So his I think they both agree at this point, or Gohan doesn't realize it yet what the Potara means, but Goku has assessed that he himself can't take on like Buu tanks himself, and that he doesn't think that Gohan can do it either, right? So they have to fuse. Obviously, something he's a little hesitant about, but he's still willing to do it because that's what the situation calls for. And then when Buu tanks, who I think we would agree is weaker than Buuhan, Buu tanks attacks him. He goes into Super Saiyan 3, and like it occurred to me that we very rarely ever see Goku like panicking like this. Like he looks like he's about to cry. Even when he's about to
Yeah.
die in other parts in the series, he's like almost like, okay, fine, bring it. Like I'll have a glorious death, you know. And here he's like fucking panicking. So if Super Saiyan 3 Goku is responding this way to Buu tanks, and he's responding like, of course I don't have the proper scan, but like he's responding like more enthusiastically to fighting Kid Buu, even though the stakes are higher, and he's able to kind of keep up with him. This to me is Goku saying, okay, Buu tanks is a very, very scary threat, perhaps more so than Kid Buu,
Absolutely.
and then
Mhm.
Buuhan is even stronger than that. So based on his reaction, I think that might be evidence for Buuhan over Kid Buu.
Okay. If I was arguing for Kid Buu, my rebuttal to that would be more along the lines of like I would argue that all of the Boos are threat, unless like you're like Beerus level, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
remember that when I told you about that scan, let me see if I can find it for you. I can send it so you can read it
Yeah, no
yourself.
problem. Do you mind if I
Uh,
respond to chat real quick while you find the scan?
yeah, of course. It's your stream, boys. It's your
Oh,
stream.
good, oh, good. Okay, 44B asks if Kid Buu was a mature trained fighter, would be interesting knowledge, but I also feel his chaos helps him. I do feel Kid Buu 1 versus 1, Super Saiyan 3, Goku, and win. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. 44B, do you think that's because of his power, or do you think that's more because he is gonna like drain him down over time? Because it seemed to me his victory was inevitable, but it was more about the fact that his key was being constant, whereas Super Saiyan 3 Goku's was gradually falling, so he wouldn't be able to keep up. or do you think he just like exists in a power tier above him or something like that? H&H, hopefully the audio is a little bit more audible. I tried to bump it up in the audio settings too. Let me know if that worked. If not, I have one more thing I can try to increase it even more. Um, 44B then says, I wouldn't claim the anime says Kid Buu is stronger than Buuhan. Um, okay, that's fair. I honestly don't know that much about the anime, so that might very well be the case. Um,
Can I respond to that real quick?
oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, 44. I'm pretty sure Goku flat out says this is the strongest, most evil, fastest Majin Buu, and I'm pretty sure the narrator states it as well. I forgot which
Mhm.
episodes it were, but I mean, I could go find it. But hey, John, I just sent you two images. I sent you the scan, like the Japanese, and then the translation. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's from Herms. So Herms is a credible translator, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And
There's actually a video. Maybe I can post it or like put it in the description or something of Herms talking specifically to somebody about the translation. Is it in my history? Don't know. I'll pull that up in a second. But yeah, let's take a look at what you sent. The Grand Kaioshin Majin Buu absorbed. The Grand Kaioshin was the ruler of the four Kaioshins who used to exist. However, he was absorbed by Bibidi's creation, Majin Buu. Even now, he remains inside Majin Buu, and it seems the Galactic Patrol need his power. Oh, is this from This is from later, right? This is not from Dragon Ball Z. Is it from Super?
this, I think this came out in 2018, so this would have been after Super came out.
Okay, cool.
But I mean, it's talking about the Buu saga. I mean,
Okay, gotcha. Relatively gentle personality due to absorbing Grand Kaioshin, but acts childlessly. Majin Buu, Piccolo, Golden Sister. Okay, he powers up by gaining Piccolo's intelligence and Goten's strength. He can also now fight strategically. Son Gohan absorbed. He catches Gohan off guard and absorbs him, gaining power on par with Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Interesting. Okay, his clothing also changes into a dogi style. So, if this is the case, then that makes Buuhan and Kid Buu more relative, right? It kind of like squashes the
yeah.
difference in power between them a bit.
And then obviously, but then you would ask, right? Somebody would ask, okay, but why is he reacting so like, why is he so scary against Bootanks? Because obviously Buuhan is stronger than Bootanks,
Yeah,
Gohan stronger than Gotenks, all that, right?
yeah, yeah.
So this is pretty much like the argument would go along the lines of like, even if let's say you would fight against any version of Majin Buu, doesn't really matter, equal stats.
Hmm.
You kind of saw this in the Majin Vegeta and Fat Buu fight. Majin Buu has crazy hacks. Like his regeneration, he pretty much has infinite stamina. He can pretty much copy your moves. Like we see him copy the Kamehameha and other moves like that.
Hmm.
So if Goku and Buuhan on par, first of all, let's look up the definition of on par though,
Yeah, on
to
par
make sure
basically
that
just means like equal equivalent, like approximately equal, right?
yeah. So on par, let's see. Google says uh,
Something is
something is
equal to
equal
or
to
similar.
or
Yeah,
similar.
yeah, we got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, right. Equal. So if we take this scan right, literally, and says yeah, they're equal in power. SSJ3 Goku and Buuhan.
Yep.
Goku would still lose because especially in Super Saiyan 3, his stamina issues, and
Mm,
we saw it in the Kid Buu fight.
that's
Like
a good point.
his
Yeah, he fizzles out. Like he can't maintain that state for too long.
because any damage that Goku does, he's just gonna regenerate it unless Goku can charge up so much power in one blast to where it evaporates all of Majin Buu's molecules.
Yeah.
I guess there's no way Goku would be able to realistically win that, and he could absorb you too,
Hmm.
right? I mean that's how he beat Gohan. He pretty much tricked Gohan and Gotenks into absorbing them in Piccolo.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like, and I mean, you could argue that, oh, why would Buu absorb? I mean, when he fights the Kaioshins, I'm pretty sure that Kid Buu was destroying the Kaioshins, but he absorbed them anyway, just cause. So even Kid Buu, even without the intelligence of Gohan or Piccolo, even he knew that he could absorb people, right?
Yeah.
So and Buuhan like absorbed. So pretty much, Buu is smart enough to know that an opponent may be too powerful for him or too difficult to kill. So even if Goku didn't have stamina issues, let's say hypothetically Goku can last as long as Buu, even though that's not the case, then Buu would win that fight with his absorption and his
Yeah,
other
that's
hacks.
true. Yeah, I mean, like when
So
you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so I don't think so. If you want to argue that that statement from that guide contradicts it, it might not. And like I said, we don't really know how strong Goku is because he's very like ambiguous about his own power throughout that entire arc. Like there's not a single time that we really know how strong he is until the final fight with Kid Buu. And like
Yep.
you said, this would make Kid Buu more relative to Buuhan. So if SS3 Goku is on par with Buuhan, then that would just mean if Kid Buu is relative to Goku, that would just mean Kid Buu and Buuhan is more relative. This does not necessarily mean that Kid Buu is stronger, but they're more. It's close. What pretty much what I'm trying to say is it's closer than people think. Like it's not as clear cut. Yo, this person wins or this person wins, right? I
Yeah.
think that this is why this is pretty much this is why this debate has been going on for as long as it has. Like this is pretty much like one of those debates that years later people don't really know the answer to. I mean, people have made up their minds, right?
Yeah.
Of course, but it's still that's why you people still have 2 hour debates, over this,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
And like we can identify like relatively small moments or relatively small quotes or whatever else, and then still have like a lot to say about the different interpretations of those quotes and the facts that like or like individual feats can be seen different ways, individual like character expression moments and stuff can be seen different ways, and then it gets more and more complicated when you add the fact that over the years there have been different translations, different supplementary sources like the one you posted might either provide more context or even like challenge the understanding that we already have. So it can just get more and more complicated over time. But yeah, I definitely appreciate your perspective on all this. I think that when it comes to, so I just want to state like for the for the record, so to speak, that like anybody who goes through these fights and comes to their own like personal opinion on which characters are stronger, I don't feel the need to like hunt that down, so to speak, and be like, no, 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 you're objectively wrong. I think there's plenty of room for interpretation, and especially with Kid Buu, the way that he's presented is almost like a force of nature, and they're like Goku and Vegeta are just trying to keep up as best they can. There's not too much time, emphasizing the particulars, like the specifics of his form, like a scientific survey of how he works or anything like that. That's not really the point of the fight. It's enough for the fight to just be this existential conflict between this incarnation of chaos and evil and you know the strength of the valiant heroes or whatever. And if you walk away from that with the idea that Kid Buu is narratively like the greatest threat that they've ever faced, I wouldn't necessarily like I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing or that you're stupid or anything like that. When I personally sift through the data and just try to like identify moments of like, okay, if we're really searching for evidence to try to prove this one way or another, I think I start to pile up like little like the straw that breaks the camel's back type thing, like here's another piece of straw, here's another one, and eventually I just kind of got to the point where it's like there's a whole pile over here, even though it's not a huge pile, there's still a little pile over here for Buuhan, and it's a bit bigger than the one for Kid Buu, if that seems fair.
I think, yeah, I think that's because just oh, Buuhan just had more screen time
Mm-hmm.
overall. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
well, maybe not Buuhan, but like that
just
version
all
of
the
Super
things that
Buu.
lead up to Buuhan. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like you said, people that aren't really that don't really know much about this topic. Well, not know much, but like they seen. Let's say you've seen Dragon Ball, like you read the manga or you watched the anime, and you're not really a power scaler, right? But like
Yeah.
you've seen it and you know the general idea of these powers. Cause so I say throughout the series, Toriyama has done a good job of emphasizing power levels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's obvious. Like you don't really need to be a huge power scaler to know. Oh yeah, Cell is stronger than Frieza, right? Like you don't really need to know be like an expert debater to know that.
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
think, but I think in the Buu saga changes that where he definitely leaves it more ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, cause you have statements like this saying, yeah. he's on par with Buuhan. Goku's on par with Buuhan, but then you have Goku like panicking and wanting to fuse against Bootanks. But I've produced an argument to which you could still have that make sense, right? It's not one or the other, right?
Yeah.
You can have two things can be true. Goku can have strength on par with Buuhan or Bootanks, but at the same time still be scared to fight him because knowing of Boo's abilities,
Yeah, that's
right?
fair. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because we have we have him fusing into Vegito, right? And so when you're fused and when you get out of the fusion, I know you haven't seen Dragon Ball Super, but um in Dragon Ball Super in the Future Trunks arc, the Goku and Vegeta fuse into Vegito, and when the fusion dispels, Vegeta has knowledge of Goku's like new form of Super Saiyan Blue. Like he
Okay.
figures out like being so that means like when you're combined into a person, you pretty much share memories,
Oh,
I
I
guess,
see. Yeah, yeah.
in a way. In a weird way, like let's say me and you fuse, and something I didn't know about you before we fuse, after that we fuse, I figure out, oh yeah, he knows how to do that. I like that's something I wouldn't have known if I never fused with you.
Right.
So fusing with
You're
I
gonna
guess
see all my
Goku,
terrible like replays of all my terrible League of Legends games that I used to play.
things that you normally wouldn't have told me or
Hmm.
revealed to me. So because I don't think Goku would have. Goku was very secretive for some reason when it comes to like he was very secretive in Super Saiyan 3. Um, there's something in Daima that Goku kept a secret. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but
Okay.
but yeah, he was very secretive. At the end, Vegeta was complaining that, oh, you kept that from me, blah blah blah. So when Goku and Vegeta fuse, you know, Goku will retain the memories of Vegito, and he will know how strong Vegito is in comparison to Buuhan. And if Kid Buu is relative to Buuhan, and Goku would be like, okay, maybe I can actually take him on. That would be my reasoning as to why Goku would be confident in taking on Kid Buu
Yeah, yeah.
if Kid Buu was stronger or relative to Buuhan. Because that's kind of like the main argument people would throw at you, right? If you're arguing for Kid Buu, like, okay, if Kid Buu's stronger than Buuhan, why the hell would Goku be willing to fight Kid Buu on his own when he was begging to fuse to fight Buuhan, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think
That's
my read on all that is just like when Goku shows up to try to fuse uh with Gohan at this point. Gohan is unable to take care of Gotenks, right? I think we kind of gone over this before, but just to kind of recap. And then a Super Saiyan 3 Goku finds himself to be inferior, I believe, to Gotenks based on his reaction here. And then when Gohan gets the Potara, and then we get like Bukalo or whatever, like the devil de-evolution here. Then Goku here says it's kind of disappointing. Gohan can handle you now. This came up in the debate, and I think they interpreted it one way. I took it a different way. My interpretation of this is Goku is saying that not that like he would have taken on Buu himself, but now he doesn't need to, and his superior Gohan can like do the work. I think he's saying, "Oh, I previously thought that it was going to be necessary for the two of us to fuse, and then in our fused state we would take you on, but instead now Gohan, who is still superior to me, Gohan can take you on by himself." So the scaling chain here is still like Gohan over Goku, and now Gohan below like Go Tanks, but Boo Tanks, but above Bukolo, if that makes sense. Um,
yeah, yeah, it makes sense, but you have to also remember, first of all, is my mic quality better now? Like, can you hear me
well,
well
I
or
can
like?
hear you just fine. I think the problem was
Okay,
that my I was keeping
stream.
my computer audio output pretty low compared to my mic because I wanted to keep the soundtrack
Oh,
low before, and so I just had
okay.
to like boost that up. Yeah.
Yeah. No problem, no problem. Anyways, because I want to make sure they can hear me
Oh,
if I'm.
also, I mean, I know this is super obvious, but like now I'm stronger than ever before, and with no time limit. You could, I maybe they did this in the debate, I can't remember, but you could just look at that and be like, Okay, then ever before means Kid Buu too, because he used to be Kid Buu, right? So
Yeah, but here's the thing. Can you prove that Boo has memories of Kid Buu though?
yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's why I wouldn't. Cause listen. Before when I was a kid, man, I used to be a big Buuhan advocate,
Mhm.
and that was one of the main arguments and scans I would use. And bro, trust me, that same scan I would be like, yeah, this pretty much GG's, right? But it's like, nah. Like I said, right? Like you look deeper into it, and it's much more interpretation. It's much more debatable than one might realize.
Was there
But
something that like changed your mind and got you away from that? Like, how did you go from arguing that perspective so hard and then like changing your mind?
definitely rereading the manga for myself, cause
Hmm.
I okay, when I was a kid, I'm 22 right now, by the way.
Cool. Yeah.
So I only watched Dragon Ball like when I was like really watched it from beginning to end. Like I think the Buu saga was the one I watched a lot the most when I was a kid.
Hmm.
But there was a big gap. Like let's say I watched Dragon Ball when I was like 8 or 10 years old, right? I
Mm-hmm.
never really reread or rewatched the series again like full through until last year. Like I think last year I reread the manga from beginning to end.
Yep.
So and also that watching a lot of debate videos and just watching a lot of videos, watching a lot of different power scalers' point of view, and it sort of changed my outlook. I think the main thing that changed my mind about it was changing my opinion on how strong Goku is. I honestly think that's probably, if not if not the most important thing about this debate. Because if two people can't agree on how strong Goku is, then it doesn't make sense to power scale Kid Buu, because Kid Buu's only feat is fighting SSJ3 Goku.
Mm-hmm.
So if if
Yeah.
if, if I think Kid Buu is relative to Buuhan, or excuse me, if I think SSJ3 Goku is on par with Buuhan in terms of just pure AP, but you think he's below Skinny Buu, then like we're not gonna find any middle ground. Because what else am I gonna argue for Kid Buu? If we're using manga only, if we're using anime, then there's other things we can do.
Yeah.
But manga only, there isn't much. Like there isn't really much for Kid Buu, and that's what I would agree. I think that's the main reason why most people would probably pick Buuhan, because
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kid Buu, you don't really have much to go off of. But we're getting. I don't want to get too sidetracked here.
That's all good.
Because you said that when Buu went back to Piccolo form,
Mm-hmm.
Goku power down. He's like, oh yeah, Gohan can take it from here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I would argue that doesn't necessarily mean Goku has Gohan above himself, because you also got to remember Goku is dead.
Well, he
I
was
mean, Goku.
resurrected at that point, right?
Yeah. He was resurrected, right? But he was dead, and so Goku wanted to stay dead.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason he was resurrected was to fight for the universe, to fight Buu, because if he didn't, then Gohan would have died and it would have been over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's in Goku's character. If there is someone, especially his own son, if there is someone who can handle the current threat at that point in his character arc, he would rather let them. That's why he didn't straight up kill Fat Buu, because he wanted the
Yeah.
kids, he wanted Goten and Trunks to do it.
That's true. I guess I was trying to emphasize more the point that like, um, well, it's kind of like what do you call it? Putting together like a few different pieces of scattered evidence. One was just going back to like his shock at Gohan's power. Now, granted, and like him saying like I didn't think it was possible or something. Now, granted, that's ambiguous. You could say impossible for Gohan himself to be that strong. That doesn't mean he's stronger than Goku. But then Gohan comes down and like beats up a stronger version of Buu than the one that Goku struggled with previously. Granted, Goku could have, again, then there's the ambiguity of like, well, Goku was holding back, so we don't know for sure that he was weaker,
He,
and
he
it's
was
yeah,
objectively holding back. He was
yeah,
objectively holding
yeah,
back
yeah.
because
No, I
he flat
agree.
out
Yeah,
says like, yeah, I could have, but I didn't because I wanted the kids to do it.
yeah, but
And
that was still like Fat Buu as opposed to Super
yeah, I
Buu. Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I know. It's ambiguous because Goku never flat out says, "Yo, you're even stronger than me now,"
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like That's why it's very tricky, because out of any arc in the whole fucking manga, this is the only arc where Goku is not flat out saying, I'm stronger than you, you're stronger than me, or I can only do this. Because even in the Android Saga literally, when Goku wakes up from the heart virus, if you remember, he straight up says, "Yeah, if Vegeta couldn't beat the androids, I can't." Like he straight up conceded. He
Yep,
straight up
yep.
conceded that he had to go train. He knew he had to go train to find a form stronger than Super Saiyan in order to be even a competitor. Because at that point, Goku wouldn't even be a competitor in the scaling chain. Because it would go, uh, Kamikalo, it would go the androids, and then Cell. Well, Cell was above him, and the Android 16. Goku would not be anywhere near there because like Goku would be relative to SSJ1 Vegeta, and SSJ we saw how that turned out for Vegeta when he fought Android 18.
Yep, yep.
And even in the Frieza saga where Goku trains and and it was a little easier back then because we had like numerical power levels to compare to, you know.
Hmm.
So it's very like this arc is very very difficult to gauge Goku's like objective power because he never really says anyone is stronger than him besides Kid Buu. Like I don't like he says he wants to fuse, right? But like I said, I think I think it has to do more with his narrative character arc because in After Cell he wanted to leave it for the future generation. So even if Goku is powerful enough to stop the next threat, he would prefer Gohan and the other kids to figure it out. Like, because when he died in the future timeline from the heart virus, the whole world went to shit. And Goku probably thought, if I don't leave a successor, if I don't train the next generation, then when I die, I'm going to, the whole world is going to be fucked because it's too reliant on me.
Yeah, yeah.
So him choosing to go to the afterlife after Cell is him pretty much saying, "You guys got to stop relying on me," And I know you don't read Dragon Ball Super, but in the last chapter, you know about like Gohan Beast and all that, right? Ultra Instinct,
No,
like you know about.
I
You
honestly
don't?
don't like know anything about it. Sorry.
You don't know shit. Okay,
No, I
well,
don't know shit.
you,
All I know is that I read to like six, like chapter 6 or 7, like that, and there was like, oh, I think I complained about this a couple weeks ago, right? Like they needed an extra Saiyan to do the ritual or whatever, and it's like, oh,
okay, okay,
cool, I'm pregnant, and then I got mad and left. So
okay. Well, okay. I would recommend catching up, but
okay,
regardless, there's a statement that Goku says in like the last chapter of DBS, and he pretty much tells Gohan like, pretty much without spoiling too much for you, Gohan has gone so much stronger,
okay,
and it pleases Goku to the point where I think word for word he says like, kudos to you, Gohan. I can rest easy now, knowing that the Earth is safe without me after I'm gone, like after he's passed.
cool.
So this is yeah. And I think that's a very significant character moment for Goku because since the Cell Saga, that's pretty much one of his grievances. Like something that he has to constantly worry about
Yep.
because even in this arc, the Buu Saga, he is forced. He didn't choose to come back. He is literally forced to come back from the dead to fight this threat because he left Gohan, he left his son and Goten. He pretty much left them to fight the Earth for themselves, and I think Goku made a very huge error, like very bad judgment call because I understand you wanting to not wanting to have them rely on you all the time, but it's better if you're able to mentor them and help them. Like, and he pretty much leaves two 8-year-old, like a 7 8-year-old and 8-year-old, to fight against a genocidal monster.
Yeah, that's true. His
And
parenting skills are not like very reputable.
I think no. Well, okay, that's a whole different debate, right?
Oh yeah, well, let's maybe not get
Yeah, that's a
into
whole
that.
different debate.
My
But
main source of information, like my main continuity that I read or consume, is Dragon Ball Z abridged, and so like I've spent far more time like rewatching that over the years than even reading the manga, and so I'm like um my ideas, I guess, like the narrative that I've internalized about Goku as a parent probably like spoiled a little bit from that. um, but yeah, I think you're making a good point about how, it going back to like the boost stuff. It's hard to determine what the hard limits of these characters' power level are because of the ambiguities that are inserted by stuff like, well, Goku has this internal like secret plan, if you want to call it that, to try to set up the next generation positively. And as long as that's interfering with the like maximum power that he's going to output at any given time, then that muddies the waters. The one thing I will say though is that let's just talk about this one thing, and then I had to take a quick break, get a glass of water or something. But let's talk
Yeah, for sure.
about this one thing that came up during the debate, which is when Goku starts to starts to build up his power, and he has this little exchange. Yeah, it's got to be somewhere in here, right? Because they talk about this, and it kind of like slightly unfortunate that they looked at it out of context. I think they should have like read a couple of pages from the chapter. Let's just see real quick. So Vegeta says, you never planned to switch. Like, he was never planning to give Vegeta the time, and he knew that I'd just get killed. Don't try to make me feel better. And so basically, Vegeta here's establishing he thinks that Goku is holding back even now, like holding back his power, so as to not make Vegeta feel bad. And then Vegeta says, don't mind me, finish him off. Hey, Goku, go forward with your full strength and just destroy him, because if you build up your chi, you should be able to obliterate him. And then Goku says, well, I have been trying to, but I haven't had the chance. So even though we know that he sometimes keeps secrets, and he like might still want to pass things off to the next generation, the other kids aren't really here to take up the mantle, so to speak. They're all dead or elsewhere.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
he's basically saying to Vegeta, dude, I'm fucked. Like, I don't have anything in reserve. I've been trying to go all out. And when Vegeta says, you're not holding back for me, which is something they kind of glaze over a little in the debate, and then like this little punk's having fun, they say lollygagging and stuff like that. I think really what's going on here is Goku saying, I literally, like, I can't deal with this guy. I'm not strong enough to beat
Yeah.
him without that. And I wasn't holding back. And so here's one, at least rare instance where Goku's being very clear that, like, no, I'm not, like, there's no like shadow games or whatever here.
I think at that point is when he concedes, like, yeah, maybe, because even he says, yo, I should have used a Patara. Like, we should have fused.
Mm-hmm.
I was way too overconfident.
Yep,
And I
yep,
think
yep.
at that point, that was finally the point in the arc where Goku finally accepted, like, okay, maybe it's not, maybe it's better if I'm actually here to actually help,
Yeah,
actually here, like, fight the threat. Because he was running away from the threat. Well, not running away, but, like, just dodging it. Like he's like leaving the responsibility up to the children to fight. And so that's why before this point in specific, he was very like secretive of his power, not being forthright. But now when there's no other choice, and now he's finally accepted, like, and he's alive now, like he's alive, like that's it, you're alive. So it's not like you're breaking any rules here by fighting Kid Buu. It's like, yo, all right, now I'm actually gonna go full power. And at this point, he figures out, oh well, no, this guy's actually too strong.
yep, yep.
So that's how I would argue it if I was arguing for Kid Buu, using my scan for him being on par with Buuhan.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just that at this point, Goku finally figures out, like, yeah, um, I still can't beat this guy, and
Yeah,
and it's still Goku still performs really good against Kid Buu. It's just that his infinite stamina and just all those hacks, or just regeneration, he, it Buu is just a hard guy to fight. Like if
it's
he
true.
was do you know about the Tournament of Power arc in Dragon Ball Super? Know
Nah,
about that?
again, like, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten into it, but
Okay.
I'll make a point to catch up. It sounds like there's some cool shit in there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, bro, if you like Dragon Ball, you definitely should catch up. I
For sure.
understand not liking the first couple. Okay, I'll admit the first couple chapters of the manga is kind of rushed because I think in the beginning the manga was supposed to be like an advertisement for the anime,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
but then eventually the manga and anime devolved into their own. It's very weird because the manga and anime devolved into their own the different continuities, sort of say, because different things happen in the arcs, like different, like there are things that happen in the manga that didn't happen in the anime and vice versa. But then now in 2024, 2025, now they're kind of converging back into one continuity again. It's very, very weird. Very,
Yeah.
very weird now.
Makes
I
sense. Well,
don't
it can't
agree.
be any worse than Boruto, so might as well give it another shot.
Oh yeah.
But with that, I need to take a break to get some water, go to the bathroom, and all that. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming in and doing the chat, on voice call and all that. I think in the future, I will try to get like an actual, like a VC lobby or whatever, and like integrate that with OBS and everything, so it's a little bit a little bit more professional, so to speak. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I appreciate your arguments. I'm still like personally leaning towards the Buuhan side of things, but
Buuhan.
I think you
I don't
made
blame you.
I think you
Yeah.
made good points. And kind of address the ambiguity and like the openness of interpretation. I appreciate you bringing that scan too, by the way. See, that's another reason why I need to actually use a fucking server so I can like put the scans that people send where everybody can see them. So I'll get on that. So yeah, anything else you want to say real quick before I take a quick break?
Oh, I would say this. Wait, are you gonna come back? Are we still gonna talk about this debate, or you want to move on to something else? Like, what
Yeah,
are
I
you gonna
think
do?
I'm gonna I'm gonna hop off of VC and then go back to like reading through the chapters. But if there's anything else you want to share, feel free.
Okay, so basically, I want to say that if someone had a gun to my head and I had to choose between Kid Buu and Buuhan,
Hmm.
I would honestly pick Kid Buu, and the reason being is I think narratively, the way that Toriyama sets it up, I don't think Toriyama would set it up to where the final villain or the final iteration of the villain isn't the strongest, right?
Hmm.
Because it, like I said, it doesn't make sense that if Kid Buu is so much weaker than Buuhan or Super Buu, why doesn't he have all the other fighters come in and help them?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe it's not to the point where Gohan himself can one shot Kid Buu, but at the very least they can like at least fight, help Goku and Vegeta like a fucking 4-on-1 at least. Or bring Piccolo
Yeah.
if you want, even though he wouldn't really be much help, but do something. But no, Toriyama makes it clear like the Spirit Bomb is the only way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that makes me think like, okay, even if as a storyteller coming, like even if you had all these other Saiyans fighting, it wouldn't make sense because he would just beat them. I think it's a lot better to assume that no, Gohan wouldn't beat Super Kid Buu, neither Gotenks. And the better option was to use the final spirit, the Super Spirit Bomb. And I mean, yeah, I mean, that's
Cool.
really it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate the conversation, man. Seriously. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll catch you in a couple minutes. I'm just gonna go grab a quick snack, and I'll be back soon.
All right, all right.
All right, later. Okay. Almost. Almost ready to get back into it. Curious if you guys play any of the Dragon Ball games. By the way, I've heard good things about Xenoverse and Sparking Zero. I'm not really great at fighting games, but I've been kind of itching to get into one. So curious if you think I should bother. I tried to get into one of the Ninja Storm games for Naruto, and it looked really cool, but the frame rate was like, maybe this is me being petty. Something about a fighting game, I really need to have a smooth frame rate, otherwise I just can't get into it for whatever reason. Okay, let me catch up on some comments before I get back into it. Let's see. Oh, Kakazun Holidays. Hey, I missed you, buddy. Hope everything's going okay. Monster Hunter keeping you late. Yeah, no worries. How is it? I have heard people being super excited about it. Be curious if you have any thoughts on how it is so far, if you'd recommend it. Let's see. H&H debates say, oh yeah, that. And Goku suggested bringing Gohan to the fight against Kid Buu. Did he? I'll take your word for it. I don't remember reading that, but that would make sense. Except he's dead, right? The manga and anime both show that Goku feels ultimate Gohan is stronger than him. Yeah, I agree with that interpretation. Mr. Narrative says I was playing Sparking Zero earlier. Oh, cool. How is it? I feel like I saw a video of like Chaozu gliding around an arena and just having like no animations for his movement. Was that a bug, or did they make him, is it more that like they made him hover and they just gave him like kind of a ghostly appearance or something like that? It was really funny. H&H says Storm in my experience has horrible netcode too. Oh yeah, well that doesn't help. I used to play oh god, I'm like revealing my age a little bit here, but I used to play Tenkaichi Budokai on GameCube back in the day. He thought Vegeta was going to bring Gohan and the kids to the Kaioshin planet. Oh yeah, gotcha. Okay. Well, let's see. Let me just look at my notes rather than scrolling through, because we kind of covered a good chunk of things. Thanks again for the chat, Mr. Narrative. That was fun. So let me see. We're on 308. What did I have for 308? Oh, wait a second. Well, there was something in 305, which I don't know if it's really relevant, but just in case. Something Buu says about with their power in Piccolo's brains. I think it's right after he transforms. Okay, what do you think, Gohan? For your witness the birth of the most powerful Jin. Okay, this is what we were talking about before, right? So, I should really retain my title regardless. Okay, yeah, we talked about him being the strongest and about him losing that title potentially, but then wanting to do the absorption. Where is the quote? Oh, here we go, right. So, this is sketchy. I think Mr. Narrative, you'll probably contend with it based on like our conversation before. But when Buu over here says, as the former Buu declared, I will smash you and enjoy it, you could, big air quotes, you could say that this is proof of him demonstrated that he can recall his former selves. And then you could say, if he can recall his former self here, then he must be able to recall his former self in the form of Kid Buu. And so when he talks about himself as being the strongest and stuff like that, and saying, I'm stronger than I ever have been, when he becomes Buuhan, then he would have knowledge of that previous self, etc., etc. But you thought Vegeta was, yeah, for sure, we should do it more often. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I tend to, as you probably noticed from earlier in the stream, when I'm like figuring things out in my head, and this is why I don't like, I'm not really eager to do a lot of debates, or or to rephrase that, I'm not super eager to like jump in and debate people like in a more formal or competitive context, just because I like to take time and kind of sit and think things through, and sometimes it takes me a while to kind of go over the chapters multiple times and stuff like that. So sometimes I like to just take some time to focus exclusively on that part before jumping into conversations or into discussions rather. But you know, the whole point of having the stream really is to just have an excuse to talk to people about a subject of mutual interest. So finding a way to do that more consistently in the future sounds like it would be fun. I just want to also make sure that I like I was looking at the stream in the corner. It's kind of oh, like the little bird icon is just grayed out and then nothing's moving on screen. And so maybe if I could get like Six again, just to bring up his stream again. He's got a Discord plugin, I think, that will animate the icons along with who's talking, and that also makes it clear that you're talking too. So if somebody comes on, they know like which voice is yours and what you're saying. So I'll do a little research. I checked out Streamlabs and I really didn't like their I found that their user interface was a little predatory feeling. It's kind of sketchy. But I'll do a little research, and for next week my goal will be to have something set up so that it's a little easier to facilitate conversations. H&H says, topic of the stream aside, started playing Dark Souls 1 again, and it really may not be as good as I remember, not gonna lie. Okay. The first half, bosses in specific, definitely aren't my favorite. Love the levels though. Very interesting. Yeah. Do you feel like it's not just held up as well, like technologically speaking? Oh, no worries. Yeah, topic of the stream. The topic of the stream is always going to be a little bit fluid, so no worries. And happy to talk about whatever, as long as we like get to the parts of the discussion that people are interested in having. But yeah, I'd be curious if you what it is exactly. Do you think you can identify it? What it is that feels different for you now? Incidentally, I was considering doing some Dark Souls 2 streaming. I know I've been enjoying the Elden Ring stuff, and I want to keep going with that. But also, for the next week or two, there's an event called Return to Dragon Lake happening, where I guess a lot of people like on Reddit are organizing to just go through and do multiplayer focused playthroughs, like do a lot of co-op, a lot of invasions, stuff like that. And I've been listening to some Dark Souls 2 critiques. I listened to Matthew Mitosis's old critique. I listened to Feeble King's critique, and I really don't understand what the fuck is going on with Dark Souls 2 critique. I don't know if everybody's jumping on some weird ironic satire train or if they just played a different game than I did. But I want to... Basically, I like really disagree with what they're saying, and I want to go back and first check to make sure I remember the game correctly and that it holds up the way that I remember it. So I was planning on doing some playthrough of that over the next couple of weeks, and then maybe talking about like the absolute state of Dark Souls 2 criticism. Mr. Narrative says, yeah, but when Vegeta was about to rip Fat Buu inside of Super Buu, pretty sure Buu says he wouldn't be himself anymore. Yeah, that's true. I'm curious. So that's one thing I would be genuinely really curious about the translation of. I'm not in any way saying that the translation is invalid that you've mentioned, but I will say that I can imagine translating a phrase like "I will no longer be myself" might be one of those things that has nuances that's difficult to capture precisely. At the very least, like I think it's. You could look at the result of the current translation and potentially have different interpretations about, is he just talking about like his physical self or his personality, or is he actually like okay, well now we start to veer into some philosophy where when Gotenks becomes, or sorry, when Super Buu becomes like absorbs Piccolo, let's say he just absorbed Piccolo, he becomes smarter. He's still the same person, right? Like philosophically, his soul or whatever is still the same. But now his intellect is different, and he also is tangibly a different person. And with every additional absorption that he gets, he is also a different person while also being the same person. So where do you draw the line between him being the same person and a different person? I guess he's doing that for us in a way by simply saying that, like, hey, no, that's the line. If you take that last Buu out of me, that's the last straw, and that's the last like aspect of my humanity that I'll lose. But again, is he referring more to the personality to the soul to the for lack of a better word, the mental aspect of who he is as a person, or is he saying he's going to become, I think his personality is going to change, or he's basically becoming something completely other to the point where he doesn't share any kind of connection with that version of himself anymore. Anyway, so he could be connected to Super Buu, but not Kid Buu, two different entities. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't mention this in the call, but a reason Goku would want to fight Kid Buu without fusing is because Kid Buu is in his pure state with no absorption, so he would want to keep it a fair fight. Yeah, didn't he say that explicitly, actually? Or I feel like that somebody said something like that. There's a direct statement that corroborates what you're saying. So that would be in character, yep. H&H says, but in relation to Dark Souls 1, I think the problem more so is just that there are things that really just miss. Gaping Dragon and Copper Demon are like mechanically horrible, especially Copper Demon. Yeah, that's when people talk about Dark Souls 2 being by comparison to Dark Souls 1 like not fair. Basically the slander the slander I keep hearing is that everything in Dark Souls 1 was hard but fair, and Dark Souls 2 is just hard for the sake of being hard. And I'm like, did you fucking play the Capra Demon? Like, I probably got stuck more on that fight than anything else up until Ornstein and Smo, just because of the lunging, like the dual overhead swing lunge thing that the demon would do the moment you entered the the arena. It was like impossible for me to deal with. I couldn't react to it, and even if I did, the two dogs would be at my throat. That did not feel fair. That felt like really, really pushing the limits. And I don't feel like I really achieved the proper solution, because like the way to beat the fight is to go up and around the left on the stairs and then get on that little shitty ledge so that you can kind of isolate the dogs and poke at them and then go in to fight the Capra Demon. That's what I did anyway. And I felt like I had almost broken it, as opposed like broken the encounter or something, found like a little map exploit rather than actually beaten the fight. So I don't know, there's a counter argument, I'm sure, why it's a good fight, and I'm not saying that like you can't feel that way, but my experience of it was just a lot of annoyance, and I can recognize it as part of a flawed masterpiece without thinking it's masterful in and of itself, right? Wonder if you would agree with that. I think for some reason my one message didn't go through. If you haven't seen Mahler's video on Dark Souls 2, I really like that one. Freddy's quite an infamous character though. Yeah, so if you have a video of his that you'd like me to check out, I'd be happy to do it. I think he's got like a 9-part series, and I tried to get into it earlier this week, and I just found his tone to be pretty off-putting. The way that he has talked to certain other people that I enjoy the content of and treated them, I was not a huge fan of like his online presence, so to speak. But if he makes good arguments, I'd be happy to hear them. I'm just not sure where to get started, because it's like a 10-hour marathon, right? Not that I should be like criticizing people for talking at great length about things or anything like that, but you know. Mr. Narrative says the absorption of the Kais would have changed him fundamentally. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Like, the fat Kai gave him more of a docile personality. I wonder what exactly the big Kai did. Is that something they expand more on in the anime? That does it actually change his personality, or just make him kind of like muscle up, so to speak? H&H says Copper Demon kills me a minimum of 5 times every time I play through that boss. To be fair, there's a spell you can use. You can get access from Griggs that can help with the dogs. But what if you are a sorcerer? Yeah, exactly. Feels like maybe there should be more clearly telegraphed options around that fight. He has a 1-hour-long video summarizing all his problems with Dark Souls 2. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that would be very helpful. I admire the 10-hour-long one. It'll just take me a while to, like, so. Can you imagine if I did like a response to that? It would probably be like fucking 40 or 50 hours long. So I don't want to get involved in that. As it was, right? Matthew Matosis did the 40-minute long thing. Then H Bomber Guy did like a 90-minute, and then that escalated into a 10-hour. So you know, the next logical step of that is basically, make my own TV series about it. Okay, so I think we're sort of nearing the end of the scaling arguments. I'm just going through my notes and seeing if there was anything else that I wanted to mention. A statement here that you must have realized that you have no chance. Yeah, we went over that before. Limitations of the Potara. Yeah, wait. With so I have here written that base Goku is able to cut. Oh yeah, we talked about that briefly. That Goku was able to in base just cut him in half. So I guess you could potentially use that like later in the fight. There's a bunch of instances where even when fighting Vegeta, Kid Buu gets, like, this happens to him like 3 or 4 times. Like, he just keeps getting blown apart. But that's not even necessarily an anti-feat because like even quote unquote even base Super Saiyan 3 or how can I, yeah, I guess it depends. I'd be curious to see how people would attack this in a debate. I'm not sure how I would use it or if I would even use it, but we have base Goku shows up and cuts him in half and he regenerates from that, and then Super Saiyan 3 Goku is fighting this version of Buu and manages to disintegrate him as well. So it's hard for me to reconcile those things into like a deductive argument, like A over B, B over C, therefore A over C. I'm more just seeing multiple instances of Buu in multiple forms just being able to recover from attacks, but not necessarily being able to tank attacks from. Now, Super Saiyan 3 Goku isn't weak, obviously, but like he's weaker compared to Buuhan for sure. So I guess this may be somewhere hidden in everything I just said is like an anti-feat for for Buu's durability, but it's also not really all that important. Yeah, here's another example. It's not really all that important for him to have durability. That's not his main asset. It's the regeneration and endurance, right? So H&H says, I personally love his content, but yeah, the Brit voice mixed with a very condescending tone makes me struggle to see a lot of his creases more than a personal troll. Yeah, I feel like maybe it's the one that you wound up sending me. I'll double check, but or I'll have to check and see. But I remember watching one of his videos, and the first 10 minutes of it or so were something like him actually being really kind of measured and saying something along the lines of, even if we disagree, I feel like we could approach this from a logical standpoint and identify the aspects of this that we disagree about and discuss them, and we can find a way to interpret and understand the art and the joy of the title in our own unique ways, and then bring like something like that. It was very nice and almost poetic even. And then he said, wouldn't that be fucking nice, but of course we can't fucking have nice things. And then he might not have said fuck as much, but whatever. But like, he then just went in, like, he revealed that all of that was a setup and that that's not what the content was going to be. And then he took like I think he was doing all of that to mock H-Bomber Guy or something like that, to be sarcastic to him or something like that. And then I was like, okay, I can't really, I don't know. Something about it just kind of turned me off at the time. But I'm always happy to give a second chance. And especially, I want to just understand people's feelings on the game. And if you think he does a good job of encompassing that, then I definitely want to check it out. Mr. Nerdive says, oh, I watched the Noodles and Apollo debate and it was horrible. It was it was definitely one of the debates of all time. Feel free to share additional thoughts. Let me know what you thought was horrible about it. Yeah, I listened to it. I think Apollo commented on the previous stream. And if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on that specifically, let's see. This one, I think it's the same guy. Yeah, we had this guy Apollo TKA who stopped by and asked this comment. Appreciate you, Apollo, if you're out there listening. I appreciate the debate. It was it was entertaining to listen to. Yeah, I think it must be, right. But anyway, yeah, should have done that before. Sorry. But yeah, my opinion is here. If you want to hear some thoughts, my short version. It's my short version. But basically, this section over here alone, as I was listening, I just sort of jotted down all of the things that Noodles said that were assumptions that were unfounded or that were just like outright false, and that he just kind of shotgunned through and never took the time to substantiate. And then, so basically, what it was Noodles doing these like massive shotguns of all of these ridiculous assertions, and then Apollo would step up and be like, okay, I'm gonna try to address like one of those to like penetrate through the Gish Gallop and try to make some progress, and then Noodles would then deflect again, and it just like kept going on like that. And by the end, there was no real progress made, because that's what happens when one person Gish Gallops and the other just like, I guess like Apollo, the biggest piece of feedback I had was maybe he could have like just stopped engaging. Like at a certain point, you have to realize about the Noodles and people who follow debate rhetoric like that, is that they're not interested, they're not talking to you. Like at no point in the debate was Noodles really talking to Apollo as a person. He was talking at him and around him because he already had like his manifesto of shit that he wanted to say, and he didn't really care about the person he was talking to. At least that's how it came across to me. And so Apollo kept trying to actually like engage with, oh no, you see, my good man, this is there is a philosophical inconsistency in the empirical device in which you were employed in this instance, and therefore the proposition that you've made have not been substantiated and must be discarded, applying Hitchens razor or whatever. And like, okay, I think it was Noodles who said Hitchens razor, but whatever. At a certain point, talking like that and engaging like that with somebody who just doesn't fucking care is not gonna go anywhere. And the best thing you can do is just to disengage and just focus on your own points. And at the end of the day, like, if all he's gonna do is just make unsubstantiated claims, not actually try to build on them, just get everything wrong, then you can comfortably just build your own arguments. And as long as you're substantiating them, demonstrating them to be the case, you don't have to engage with any of that shit. I say that as somebody who was outside the debate and probably would not have been as patient as Apollo was, and probably would not have been able to do what I just said. It's really hard to stay focused and to do that when somebody is like acting that way towards you. So I'm not trying to be arrogant and say, well, just do it my way, you'd be better, right? But I just at a certain point, I think you're allowed to just say, okay, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to play into this anymore. Anyway, H&H says, as a person more integrated in the debate comm on Discord, a Noodles versus Apollo debate sounds absolutely insufferable. Yup, it's, it definitely was intense. Let's say that. Here's the thing. I think you've probably heard me talk about Noodle stuff before, right? And that, have you, I'm sorry if I'm not remembering the usernames, but you've been here for some of the discussions on Weeaboo Warrior versus Noodles and their debate. Is that right? Because if so, then you'll know that I really genuinely do enjoy that debate. Like, I have like issues with Noodles, obviously, but like that debate, including the points that he brings up and the way that he kind of reaches far and wide to bring up arguments and ideas, is genuinely enjoyable. So it is, which is why I even bothered like commenting on his shit or even trying to talk to him in the past, is because there's something there. There's something entertaining and there's something that can be valuable there. But on the other hand, I don't know what happened or how this happens, but there's this other just like rage-filled side of things. And not just him, like, I'm not singling him out. There's a whole, I'm sure you're very well aware, there's a whole other side of things. Like D1 as well, like, is the other one I keep referring to just because I've listened to him a bit recently. D1 versus Weeaboo Warrior, he just gets to a certain point and he's just like he's not talking to Weeaboo anymore. He doesn't care. He's just angry. I don't know why. I don't know what happened or what switched, but he's just angry now. and it's just the end of the conversation. Arrow as well. Arrow got heated in this debate, but like I said before, it was pretty chill overall. They kind of laughed about it afterwards, no big deal. But in his debate against whoever the guy was he was talking to about Dabura, he just like went off on him for no reason, and the entire time he sounded like he was having a miserable fucking time. Arrow did. He kept saying like, "You're wasting my time. You're wasting the judge's time. I don't want to I don't want to be here for this. I don't want to listen to you. You're annoying me." Okay, well, you don't have to fucking do it, right? Like, you don't have to participate if it's so annoying and such a big pain in the ass for you to just talk to another person about manga. You don't have to. But I think it almost feels, from an outsider's perspective anyway, that that is the point. It's not to show up and just talk about oh, good that these are showing up, not to just talk about a subject of mutual interest. It's literally to show up and be mad around anime. And I don't know, hopefully that's providing some useful entertainment for someone. I mean, it must, because it keeps going on, right? Anyway, Mr. Narrative says, that's honestly why I left the debate scene. It's just a headache. Yeah, fair enough, especially between two people who don't like each other. Yeah, you know what was pretty intense too is that in that recent, like, the Apollo versus Noodles debate, they got paid, right? And Noodles just left after taking the money, so like he quit even though he got paid. That's a weird vibe. I wasn't there in person for the Weeaboo Warrior debate, but I did watch the stream itself after it was done, and I think the more traditional versus battle approach with less scaling was cool and unorthodox. Yeah, I really like the fact that, like, even though I disagreed, I read your next comment. Saw Serpone and Noodles in the same search bar and got PTSD flashbacks to Arrow Noodles Sport Wars. Yeah, I couldn't make it through that. I couldn't even hear what they were saying at the time, but yeah. I'm not even gonna touch on the whole, like, Surfbone controversy or whatever. I don't really think it's my place to comment, and beyond saying that it was just, the whole thing was just really gross and weird. But I will say that even though Noodles and I have disagreed pretty intensely sometimes in the past, and obviously I have a lot of, like, critiques of his stuff, I don't, like, hate him or anything. I'm not even, like, mad at him. I just wish he would stop being an asshole. But Surfbone, like, he's just, like, on a completely other tier. I don't know why, but if you ever listen to the streams where Surfbone and Noodles are commenting on, like, Six's stuff, for example, or on or other people's videos, or they're doing, like, the live streams, live commentary, he just strikes me as a person who's, like, never had a good day, and I kind of feel bad, but it's just he only ever speaks in sarcasm, and he only ever laughs when he thinks he's pointed out a problem with someone else by being sarcastic. I don't understand how he works. Like, I just don't get how how you sustain that kind of energy. It's bizarre. Despite everything that I like, all the critiques that I've levied against Noodle's work and stuff like that, I think there is a small remote chance that we could potentially have a productive conversation, however tiny it is. Surfbone, absolutely not. There's no fucking way I could imagine having a pleasant conversation with him under any circumstances. It's just bizarre. Anyway, welcome to my no drama debate stream. Anyway, yeah, to shift things into a slightly more positive note, I have to commend Weeaboo Warrior seriously for the way that he approached that conversation, because he really did, like, go through every single data book scan, every single ability, every single argument, I think, that there was for Pain's abilities. The one thing that I wouldn't even say failed, it wasn't that dramatic, but the one thing I wish he would have done better is he didn't, in my opinion, pull all of the information together in the end. So he says, like, okay, the Asura Path has big explosive attacks that are beyond anything created in this world, in the Shinobi world. Yes, that's true. The Naraka path and the human path can pull out people's souls. Yes, that's true. Shinra Tensei, Bansho Tanin, Animal Summons, Pain can do all those things. Yes, that's true. Okay, now show me that. Please show me all of those things working together in tandem, right? Because you could argue that Kakazu, it's really hard to prove, in my opinion, that you could kill Kakazu with a Shinra Tensei, but you don't need to outright prove that if you can just prove that you can like cancel out his momentum with a Bancho Tenin while flanking him with the 5 other paths and putting pressure on him with like a 10 dogs or whatever else, right? There's ways that you can make the conversation pretty creative and demonstrate Pain's superiority without objectively demonstrating that he has better AP or speed or any individual particular stat. And so I was just waiting for that last like linchpin to come in and bring everything together, and I didn't quite get that. But man, did he put in a lot of work leading up to there to get to that point in the first place. And especially since I don't think he's primarily a Naruto, excuse me, a Naruto YouTuber. I think he focuses more on Dragon Ball, right? Or maybe he's more of a variety thing. That he should get a lot of credit for bringing all that stuff up. Oh, hey, how's it going? Reiji, am I pronouncing that correctly? Reiji says, yikes, that community apparently gets pretty toxic. Yeah, it definitely can. I'm sure it's not just this community. I think it's something about the like mix between anonymity and camaraderie that comes from Discord is that you get together with a bunch of people that you don't entirely know, so there's still a little bit of, like, for the most part, right, there's probably some anonymity there, and then there's a sense of community that comes out of it, which is genuinely a good thing. But then when those communities clash with other people, or other communities as well, I think it can become less about the individual arguments or the series or whatever else, and more about like, okay, we're sending out our representative, so to speak, to clash with the other representative, and then like the communities get together and like have this almost like simulated battle based on their champions, like they're champions, right? And that can be entertaining, you know, when you have these people who were selected as representatives, or like pitting their skills against one another, or even like solo, like watching somebody climb the ranks, so to speak, like just you know, honing their skills over time and like having bad showings and then getting better and then defeating old opponents. There's a drama that comes in with all of that. It's very entertaining. And also sometimes I think the drama takes on a life of its own, and people flock to the toxicity and the gossip, and maybe even go out of their way to create drama just to have something to react to. And that's when people start getting hurt. That's when people start getting ostracized or like cyberbullied or whatever else. And the lines, it can be difficult to draw the lines. I was on a stream somewhat recently, and I wound up unsubscribing from the channel, even though I've been, you know, watching streams from time to time, because they were going on TikTok and they were talking to people, and every once in a, they basically had a stage for people to come up and talk about anime, and somebody came up and basically just got like immediately yelled at and like sent off the stage. And then everybody in chat was like, ha ha ha, that was a funny joke. And then the person came back and then like had the balls to, or the nads I should say, to get up on camera and like do a face reveal, so to speak, and continue having the conversation even though they got yelled at. And then they just got like further basically cyberbullied, and then left. And so everybody in attendance was responded by saying, oh, it's just a joke, haha, it's very funny. It's only a joke if you're in on the joke. Otherwise, like, it's just harassment, right? And the line between those two things can be very, very thin. It's okay if everybody's in on it. It's okay if everybody consents to that. But a lot of times you have people who just show up and want to participate, want to hang out, want to get along and talk about a subject of mutual interest. Maybe get a little spicy from time to time. That's okay. And not have to go through the fucking gauntlet to do that. Anyway. Asian Age Debate says, I mean, think of how socially skilled a bunch of people who debate anime are. Like, let me try that again. Sorry, I got distracted. I mean, think of how socially skilled a bunch of people who debate anime are on, like, average. It's also that. Yes, that's true as well. Yep. I guess there's also the aspect of these series are also, like, geared around fighting, and people can have very strong emotional attachments, not just to moments in the series, but also to the power fantasy that comes along with watching people fight. One sec, quick break. Okay. So yeah, trying to figure out where we left off. Let's see, we're on chapter 309, and didn't have anything specifically mentioned here, but I think we did have something for 310. Okay, at 310 I have a statement from the Kai saying that Buu is helpless. So let me just go over that real quick. Yeah, Buu is helpless. Didn't know the Potara was so powerful. Oh yeah, and I guess this is a thing that's established elsewhere in the series that I don't know much about, but this rival boost thing, this is a whole thing, right? Like, this is characters who are rivals who fuse get a more powerful boost than those who don't. Is that right? Anyway. Oh yeah, this is super cheesy, but this is something that somebody would bring up in a debate. This is called the Ultimate Fighter, right? This chapter is called the Ultimate Fighter. But I don't really think that helps us going to Kid Buu. Or, well, I guess. I would not make this argument, but I could totally see somebody doing this, saying, well, this chapter is called the Ultimate Fighter. It's referring to Vegito, or Vegerot, excuse me. And as a result, as a result, Kid Buu can't be the strongest, can't be stronger than this version of Buu, or any other version of Buu, because this character, well, no, actually, Vegerot could still be stronger than this version, and then also be stronger than Kid Buu, so I guess that's not a defeater either. Right. What else do I got? I love this. You know what I would actually pay money to see? Like, right now? I would pay money to see somebody debate Coffee Candy Vegerot versus pretty much any other character. Like, if you can creatively scale and, like, maintain a conversation and have a meaningful debate about something like that, or even an entertaining debate about that, then yeah, this is what I want to see. I want to see this guy scaled. There's no way he's called Vegerot in Viz. I thought so. Oh no, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's not Vegerot, it's Super Vegerot. I was surprised. What I remember him being called Vegito, right? But I guess Vegerot makes more sense, because Vegito would mean, like, it's combining Vegeta's Saiyan name and then Goku's Earth name. So if it's a Super Saiyan fusion, it might make sense for them both to have like Saiyan names. The other, I've also heard the name Gogeta, but that's a separate thing. That's from GT, right? So I don't know. Is this not, like, community canon? Is it supposed to be Vegito or Vegito? I do like Vegerot though, because it sounds like he's just like a decaying mess of vegetables. But okay, I'll call him Vegito. Candy Ball Vegito, full power Vegito, but he's smaller, so he's harder to hit. Strongest in the series. Honestly, yeah. I mean, like, Buu prefers Buuhan, like, wants him to go back to human mode after he transfers to after he becomes a candy. Supposed to be Vegito. Okay. Interesting. So you think Vegeta plus... Oh, I see. Of course. Okay. There's just not a toe. Like that final toe in Kakaroto is not in the English translation. Used to read the first time I read through, I read it in Italian, so I'm probably remembering how it was there too. I remember it being a bit more vulgar. Like there's quite a few things. Oh yeah, where where was it? There's something that happens within the past 20 chapters around this where a character like flips another character off. Is it like Goku giving Buu the finger or something? He flips in the bird, and in this version they just make it a version. Jesus. In this version, they just make it like a closed fist instead of a raised middle finger. I thought I was losing my fucking mind. I had to go back and look that up. They just like censored the middle finger. Really weird. In a series about like where shit like this happens, they censored a middle finger. Like, come on. Anyway, oh yeah, wait, not to mention. Yeah, they did it again here too. Yeah, so like in the version that I read when I was a kid, this, like he was flipping, this hand gesture involves also the middle finger here. And they just cut it up. And I think here too, he had middle fingers here too. Viz just didn't like that. Oh, have you guys, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the whole private potion thing. Like, oh my god. So if you're not familiar with this, see if I can figure out volume 24. Alright, now I really want to go find this now. 1 second. Okay. If you haven't seen this, you're in for a treat. Just not the good kind like you want. Okay. So this is Naruto for a second. This is during the Sasuke retrieval arc. This is right before Lee starts fighting Kimimaro. Is it? I thought it was... Oh, no, hang on. Almost there. There we go. Okay, so... So here we go. So this is before the fight with Kimimaro. Lee has just recovered from his injuries in the hospital. He slipped away. He's supposed to take his medicine, and unfortunately he swaps out his medicine with sake. And of course, sake gets him drunk, and he gains access to the Drunken Fist, to which he is a natural expert. And obviously this presents a great threat, and he gets a big power boost, so to speak. Not literally like chakra boost per se, but his movements become harder to predict and more unreadable, and maybe his speed goes up as well, and he's able to contend against Kimimaro. So Viz looks at that, and Viz says, you know, we can't let kids think that drinking alcohol gives them a superpower, especially if they're teenagers. So we have to remove that. What are we going to do though? Because it's such a big part of the fight, and like drunken boxing is a real thing, and so how do we retcon that? And so what they decide to do is to have Tsunade say that Lee grabbed her private potion. He responds like this, and that private potion, for some reason, listen to this, if he drinks a drop of your private potion, terrible things will happen. It's so gross. There's something just so fucking unsettling about all this. Couldn't they have just like added in another line where Kakashi says, "Hey Lee, make sure not to do that again. Drugs are bad, kids." You know, like that would have been so much better than this. It's so weird. So when people, oh yeah, and then like, okay, how do you get to Drunken Fist from Private Potion? Well, he drinks his medicine, and then here a guy says, "You see, back when Lee achieved the Reverse Lotus, I brought him to a restaurant to celebrate. At one point, taking it for water, Lee accidentally downed a cup of someone else's private potion. Lee is drinking her private potion." So fucked up. Because Lee, of course, is a master of the potion punch. The potion punch, ladies and gentlemen. He goes around, he steals people's their private potions, and then he drinks their private potion juices, and then he punches them with potion punch. Juice punch. So, when people talk about mistranslations, like, I get it. That being said, obviously this is not an accurate scholastic translation. Try to put yourself in the shoes, though, of someone who is working for Viz and gets the job to do this. Like, you're told, hey, you're not allowed to publish this manga with a kid drinking alcohol and getting stronger. That's not going to happen. So I don't care what you do, you have to figure out a way to sell this so that we can get past the censors. They did a pretty great fucking job, I think. Like, I don't know how else you would have gotten around this. Obviously, it's creepy and weird and gross, but that's not the fault of the translators, that's the fault of the censors. And considering the circumstances, we get a really, really funny little scene here. There's also one more while I'm at it, and we can go back to Dragon Ball. Although I think we're kind of starting to like crystallize on a point, unless you guys have any contentions. But let's go. Let's see. Yeah, you guys are probably familiar with this one, right? When Neji shows up, I think doesn't he say like, "You worthless, scummy, shitty bastards" or something along those lines? He says something explicit in the original, and here he says, "You bucolic non-entities." I've never heard this phrase in my entire life, but I've started using it, and it's great. Bucolic, in case you're not familiar with the word, I wasn't. The definition is relating to the pleasant aspects of the countryside and country life. So instead of saying like, "You rotten bastards," he says, "Oh, you country bumpkins." What a delightful shift. This from the same series that has this character have his shoulder like punctured and ripped apart by an arrow while being employed as a child soldier like just a few issues later. So, you know. Anyway, none of that is relevant to Kid Buu versus Buuhan, but we talked about translation before, and specifically it's gonna come up in the Arrow conversation, the Arrow debate as well. A translation is a difficult art, more of an art than a science a lot of the time. He actually looks so cute here, I have to say. Toriyama does a great job of like creating those, like I said, those moments of levity, but also, God, his characters are so expressive. Like, he goes from this to this to this to that. Like, he's just so animated. You can feel like the energy behind his emotions. H&A says, "Dude, I remember reading the Neji statement and wondering who picked up a thesaurus while translating, because in no way did Kishimoto say this." Yep, absolutely. Sasuke grabbed a plethora of shuriken and a myriad of kunai and threw them at Zabuza. Okay, so here, it's worth, I think this is like the last thing. So here, we get a reversion to Super Buu, and Goku says that Super Buu is stronger than both of us. So Mr. Narrative, let me know what you think about this, because I'm about to go back into like scaling territory that I'm not sure of. But Goku, when he fought Buu before, was holding back. But then he died and came back, and he should have gotten a Zenkai boost from doing that, right? So he's stronger than when he fought Majin Buu previously. And right now, can we assume that he's being straightforward with Vegeta and saying, hey, that Super Buu right now is still stronger than me in my strongest form, who was stronger than I was when I fought Majin Buu before, like Fat Buu. If that's the case, then that basically means that, actually I'm not sure directly where it scales, but it does mean that Goku in Super Saiyan 3 is inferior to Super Buu. And if Goku is relative to Kid Buu, and Super Buu is like way, way, way down the chain, even if Kid Buu were to be a little bit stronger than what we see fighting Goku, like there's just so many like levels of scaling higher than Super Buu is. And this is reminding me of what you said of I'm sorry, I can't remember the specific thing. I think it was a scan you sent, right? And then I was like, oh, this kind of like compresses the top and the bottom of the scaling chain and squashes it, so everybody's like a bit more relative. I think this is making me lean a little bit more in that direction. Anyway, let's keep going. So he does know the dance. With that being said, yeah, I want to talk about when he shrinks as well. Wait, hang on a second. What does he say? Then he turned this one into chocolate and ate him. Maybe the others who got turned into chocolate are in here too. Nope, he's the only one. Okay, so he hasn't retained. So interesting. So this is not 100% confirmed or anything, but if he turned the other Kai, the bulky Kai, into chocolate and ate him, then he was like fully absorbed and was not maintained in this little cocoon. So that little version of Buu made the choice to, oh, okay. So then when he absorbed this, like, Fat Buu originally, that would have changed his personality. And then from that point forward, he would have potentially been more judicious about, like, what he does with people that he summons, something like that. No, not summons. I keep saying summons because I got Naruto brain rot. Absorbs. There we go. I'm thinking about the Edo Tensei too much. Okay. I remember hearing somebody bring up that their power is probably nerfed inside him because they can't blow through him. That's possibly the case. Maybe there is something about being inside him that just means that their power, it's not that like their actual key power output is reduced. It's more that like the environment that they're in is dissipating their force, or like shielding up against their force. And so, hang on. So is Goku in Super Saiyan 1 here? Or is this meant to be Super Saiyan 2? Because the hair makes it kind of look like 1. But then it's weird that he and Vegeta at this point can both go into SSJ2, right? So why are they only going into 1? I mean, I can understand why Goku wouldn't go into 3 if he wants to conserve his power, not have it like fizzle out too fast. But I guess that kind of throws a wrench into things a little bit. Okay, so here's the scene where he gets like ripped off. He generally looks scared. Don't cut him out of me. I won't be myself anymore. You won't be yourself. How intriguing. Let's see what that's like. So it is, yeah, like the expressions on his face are different than the kind of panic that he was experiencing when he thought he couldn't beat people before. Like this is like a categorically different kind of reaction. This is fucking brutal too. So I think this is a sort of visual metaphor, not even, it's more explicit, that his his self, like his sense of self, his being, is out, like actively melting away and disintegrating, like literally and figuratively, and emphasizing the magnitude of the change that's happening. They expect either fat or thin transformation. Let's see. I think they have some statements around here about. Okay, yeah. So his chi. Okay, so here's something about the progression to Kid Buu. His chi starts to get bigger, or ki starts to get bigger from this point, and that indicates that even removing Fat Buu, even though you're quote unquote removing something from him, his power is still increasing, almost as if his power was held back. So the stuff that I said about like the relativity between Goku SSJ3 and Super Buu and Kid Buu gets called into question by the fact that there seems to be a progression up in ki output between Super Buu and Kid Buu. So they're probably not all like interchangeable or whatever. And again, this is not like solid, hard evidence or whatever, but it does kind of seem like the reaction of this is Kaioshin. I don't know what the proper term for him being. This is Kaioshin, right? And this is, what is the term for him when he's fused with Kibito? I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. But the reaction that he has here of shock that he's returning to his prior form, you could potentially, yeah, and like the level of shock that he has. I mean, I don't know, like this is not a power scale, right? This is not a like any kind of measurement or whatever, but it's providing context for how significant of a threat this is. This feels like such an out of character thing for them to misunderestimate or to underestimate him like this. Like, shouldn't they be able to sense his ki? Oh no, we talked before about how he can suppress his ki as well. Five Lords. H8 says, I think fused is Kibito Kai. Oh, Kibito Kai. Okay, cool. Okay. Gods in north and west. The strongest, the burly god of the south. Okay. Okay, so here's, is this Kaioshin or Elder Kai? I think I've heard him called Elder Kai. He seems to be indicating that Buu. Nah, there's nothing really here. So he progressed through this state, the state of like his body resembling his, but that doesn't really tell us anything. Afterwards, he calmed down to the point. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is something that came up in the debate too. This small Buu is the very first, most difficult one. Yes, he's lost the soul he gained. This Buu is evil incarnate, right? So let me read this actually. The next to be absorbed was the chubby but gentle Great Lord of Lords. Before this, Buu was pure evil, a failure that Babidi himself couldn't handle. But afterwards, he calmed down to the point that Bibidi was able to. Oh no, Bibidi, not Babidi. That Bibidi was able to bring him under control. So the souls he ate tamed him. Then this small Buu was the very first. So you could argue that this means that Buu was so strong that Bibidi couldn't handle himself, but that doesn't seem to be the implication, right? It's more like because Buu was pure evil, he's not going to listen. Like, there's nothing you can do to motivate him to pay attention. Yeah, probably Bibidi might not have been able to physically control him also, but the threat that he's representing or whatever is more about his uncontrollably evil nature. Like, he's got no real personality that you can interface with, I guess is one way to put it. And then he gets tamed. And a tame could refer to reducing his strength, but it could also just refer to his personality. Yeah, so again, like, reading through this, if you just read through this and you were like, oh shit, they're really scared and really nervous and upset because up to this point, we have never seen the true form of Buu. The true form of Buu was the most difficult to control. He was the most evil. He was etc. etc. And now you see that form appear, and the first thing he does is just sort of, he screams so loud that it even hurts their ears, and then he just casually, without even thinking about it or really emoting at all, just tries to destroy the earth in a single attack. This guy's personality has completely changed, and he is just hell-bent on destruction now, like as an impulse. And you could look at that and be like, okay, this is the strongest threat that we faced in the series. Like Mr. Narrative was saying before, we're getting to the part where it's the final showdown. Why wouldn't the final boss be the strongest thing? And I wouldn't say that that would be crazy or anything like that. In a debate context, I'm also, however, failing to find the explicit descriptions of him as actually having gotten a power boost. Like, where do they actually say that he got stronger? He's never been stronger than this before. There's nothing we can do, at least before we stood a chance, or something like that, right? I don't think there's any statements to that effect. And I think you could just argue that even though Buu was like physically stronger in terms of his power output, in terms of his striking strength or something like that, when he was Buuhan, that in terms of the overall threat he presented in combat, he could still potentially be reasoned with, potentially be, like, talked down in order to, like, he literally gave Goku the opportunity to fuse with Hercule or with Mr. Satan, and then he then used that to fuse with Vegeta. So that version of Buu is still you have like a chance to maybe figure something out, but that's not going to happen with this version. This version doesn't need to be as strong to be even bigger of a threat and even more terrifying, and to serve as an even more like threatening final boss, if that makes sense. H&H says Supreme Kai is generally a title. I think Shin is the tiny one with the Karen hairstyle. Yes, I'm kind of jealous of that hair, not gonna lie. The one Buu absorbs to become Fat Buu is, I believe, called the Grand Supreme Kai. Okay, just so no one's confused. I think I finally at least got the names of the Buu forms correct. Maybe. Is it? I'm just curious. Not that this really matters, but I always saw it written as Buu, like either B-U or B-U-U. Yeah, like you're writing it in chat, B-U-U. How come they've written it as Buu, like a ghost, like a scary ghost noise? I don't know. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Let me just check my notes real quick. What do I have here? Oh, I said something about Vegeta's face in this. What was I talking about? Satan's head always looks way too big for his body in this sequence. It's weird that they decided to go in a bit of a cartoonish route. Where's the thing about his face? Well, there's this. But there was something else. That, nope. I'll find it. We're almost at the end of the chapter anyway. What is wrong with this? Okay. There was some issue of... Oh yeah, here. Look at his face. Look at that. What's going on there? I don't know. Something about this. It's like too egg-shaped or something. The way that it's turned. There's something not right. You know what I mean? It's weird. Anyway. Oh, Hercule had a typo. Oh yeah. That could be. Oh no, but Goku's calling him the same over here as well. Yeah, they keep using BOO. Anyway, let's see. Let's say Goku's not able to keep up with that. I think the fact that Buu was so impulsive. Yeah, we talked about the you're not holding back from me. Goku start to power up. Yeah, so I think honestly that's pretty much all of the stuff that I wanted to go over from the chapter. They're all dumb, breaks my heart, Sensation Ace. Yep. Yeah. It's a shame. One of those translation quirks, I guess. Curious as to why they made the decision. Maybe they figured that like the 2U thing wouldn't fly as well. But I don't know. Naruto, they kept the Jinchuriki either with the 2U's or with the U with the line over it, whatever that's called. So anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I talked about this before briefly, that they show relativity to one another, right? Yeah, so this is the thing I was talking about before, right? Goku doesn't seem to be able to, like, even if Goku were holding back, do you think that he wouldn't just like rip off his like head tail stock thing if he could? And then same thing here with Buu. If Buu were strong enough, don't you think he would just bite through his arm? Right? Like if Buu has the jaw strength to bite through his arm and break the bones in his arm, do you think he would stop himself from getting all the way through his flesh in order to just prolong the fight even more and torture him? Or do you think he would actually try to like break his bones and gnaw him, gnaw gnaw through his flesh and bones and all that stuff? Personally, I think it would be really weird for this like feral, bloodlusted berserker kind of creature to be exerting such fine control over his movements, such to make sure that he was like only barely wounding his opponent if he could wound him more grievously. It seems out of character to suggest that Buu was like being cautious about the amount he was hurting Goku. It seems more in character to me that he was trying to hurt him as much as he could, but he was just slowing down his regeneration in order to draw out the fight and stall and like fuck around because he knew he was going to win anyway. So yeah, he is a bloodlusted monster, but he's also like a shitty little prankster. And here's Super Saiyan 2 question mark Vegeta blowing him away. So more about that durability. He is having fun with it. But again, here, like, so he hits Vegeta. If let's assume that hypothetically there is an amount of force that Majin Buu could potentially generate to break Vegeta's spine. Like if this was just a regular human being and Buu did this, it would probably shatter their spine, if not just like vaporize them, right? So he gets to Vegeta and he's like, okay, I'm about to hit this guy. I'm either going to hit him as hard as I can, or I'm going to hold back and not hit him as hard as I can. And if the first is true, first version of those things is true, then that means that Buu doesn't have enough strength to break Vegeta's spine with one attack like that. And if the second is true, then that means that Buu was actively thinking about holding his force back with this particular strike. And I don't know if we could prove one or the other, but which one of those things seems most likely, especially considering that, Buu continues to just like beat the shit out of him over and over and over again over the course of this fight. You could look at that and be like, okay, he does want to torture him, but I guess like I'm not doing a great job of articulating this, but I'm still looking for the one thing where Kid Buu does something that Buuhan couldn't do to like prove that he is stronger. Like if Kid Buu came along and punched through Vegeta's heart, we could at least look at that and say, oh shit, we never saw any of the other forms of Buu do that. There's a feat. There's something that they've not been able to accomplish ever. But this is just like when was it Noodles who was talking about how supposedly Kakazu like beat up Choji in the anime, right? And Kakazu got, I don't know if you're here in chat, but I I think we might have talked about this briefly, that yes, in the anime, Kakazu hit Choji over and over and over again and pushed him back, but then Choji got back up and kept on fighting. So it's impressive to the extent that Choji scales. It is a feat that Kakazu was able to do that to him, but then if he gets back up and keeps fighting after that and doesn't seem to be like critically injured or anything, that's almost an anti-feat for Kakazu, because he hit Choji over and over again and didn't cripple him. That's not much of a feat, right? Oh, okay, well, Kakazu might have been holding back and probably just playing with him and torturing him. Okay, that is probably true. I agree. That interpretation is absolutely in character. But him holding back doesn't then count as a feat for his strength if we don't actually see how strong he can be, right? Because he's not showing us his actual strength, so we can't scale his actual strength. We can scale his held back strength, but his held back strength didn't wound Choji. So now all we're left is this vague idea that maybe if he hit even harder, then he might have been able to hurt Choji, and you can't really use that for scaling. So similarly here, Majin Buu fights against Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and as far as I can tell, doesn't break their bones or anything. Remember when Cell just showed up after he regenerated and he just broke Gohan's arm? He just snapped his arm, right? Like, one thing like that, a single feat that to Super Saiyan 3 Goku would be enough, but he doesn't do that. Again, that's not saying he can't. That's not saying this definitively proves that he's trash compared to Buuhan, but I'm also just not finding that thing. Where's the linchpin? Where's the decider, the trump card, or whatever that says, no, okay, here, just look at this, and this proves that Kid Buuhan is stronger. I just haven't seen it. And at that point, we are starting to get to, I think, the end of the series. Yep. So I think that's pretty much all. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a comment. HNH says, in Dragon Ball Z, the character Buu is named as such because his creator, Akira Toriyama, drew inspiration from the sound. Oh, yeah, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo from the Disney movie Cinderella. Probably the reason. That makes sense. Yep. The bite stuff might just be a gag, funny thing. Yeah, it could be. They have moments like that. Wasn't there one in the... Oh yeah, didn't Goku also bite Frieza's tail at one point? It could be a callback to that. It'd be kind of funny. Frieza's tail kind of looks vaguely similar to the headstalk thing, whatever that thing is even supposed to be. Yep. So I think that's it. Yeah, I think we had a good discussion with Mr. Narrative before about different perspectives on the open-endedness and where there exist opportunities for us to continue challenging the arguments. Obviously, I can't really comment much about the anime. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I haven't caught up on Super or Daima. But just based on the manga, look, if you were to read this manga and come to the conclusion that Kid Buu is stronger because he represents the final boss thing, which I think Mr. Narrative was talking about before as well, that's totally fine. I don't really have a problem with that. But if we're talking about debates between the character in power scaling terms, so far, what I still kind of come back around, and I feel a bit more confident in what I was trying to say before, is that Kid Buu does not demonstrate any kind of feats, just factually on panel, does not demonstrate any kind of feats that put him definitively over Super Saiyan 3, to the point where he can just outright kill him without draining his power, essentially, like letting the fight draw out for a while. Or actually, no, I didn't phrase that correctly. Let me correct myself there. He might be able to kill Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He might be able to, but we don't actually see him make any critical attacks, what I'll just call critical attacks on Goku. So attacks that would critically injure, wound him, incapacitate him, anything like that. We just factually don't see him do that. Super Saiyan 3 Goku is able to also go up against Fat Buu, but he seems to indicate to Vegeta that Super Buu is stronger than both himself and Vegeta. So Super Buu is stronger than the Super Saiyan 3 Goku that is fighting Kid Buu now. So that might put Kid Buu in and of itself at least relative to Super Buu, if not Super Buu a little bit higher. And then going from there, Super Buu gets all of those additional power-ups. So Gotenks, Piccolo, and Gohan. And now we're sitting there with all of that additional stuff. And we have all of those additional statements and bits of evidence indicating how strong those characters are. It's really difficult for me to look at that and say that Kid Buu should be considered to be stronger than Buuhan based on that. And I think it is pretty clear that Buuhan is stronger than Kid Buu. I might be missing something, and if I am, like, please let me know. Please feel free to challenge or bring up any other arguments that I might have missed. But I think that's it, right? So with that being said, I think we've been going on, what, like 3 hours now? I think I might call it a night a little, say a little early. Because once we start getting into... yeah, the comments are hilarious. Oh, hey, Weeaboo Warriors in here. That's right, I almost forgot about that. What does he say? Torrus won this. Aero tried to argue Torrus was making a circular argument, but he didn't. His argument came from multiple official scans, all claiming Kid Buu was the strongest Buu. After that, Aero has to show why these can't be true. Overall, I think he failed to do that, though he came very close with one of his arguments. The one that calls both Goku and Kid Buu fellow... Oh, that was the last thing I was going to talk about, so I'm glad I read this. This proves that they are the top two in the universe, and it may imply that they are tied for the number one spot. If this is true, Aero arguably won. However, I don't think he pushed the point hard enough to prove they were tied for number one, rather than Kid Buu was number one and Goku was number two, and they are fellow strongest because they're both just above everyone else. Yeah, I mean, he basically, you know, not to take credit for his comment or anything, but I was gonna try to say something similar to that, which is just that comment about him being the fellow, like, the quote was, if I remember correctly, that, it's a scan of Goku about to blow away Kid Buu, and it says, like, only Goku's fellow strongest can really understand his feelings. And the suggestion was that, like, Kid Buu and Goku are the strongest, and I think what he was trying to say is that that means that Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu are just the strongest in the series, including over Kid Buu. Including over, like, Buuhan and any of the other characters involved in, like, the absorption arc, so to speak. And we know that's not true because Goku and Vegeta have to fuse together and then go into Super Vegito in order to take on Buuhan. So that character there, Vegito, I think is right. Like, Vegito is factually the strongest thing that we ever see in Dragon Ball Z. Like, if Vegito didn't want to go in and save people from Buu and, like, free them, if he just wanted to go all out and get blood and, like, destroy him, like, bloodlusted mode, he would have just been able to do that no problem, right? There's nothing that we see in DBZ that I'm aware of that is stronger than Vegito. So that statement is just not correct. And so we can just dismiss it, I think. Right? Is that making sense? I think this is what we were saying too. Like, Goku connects with people and has some kind of weird, like, fight empathy with them. And once they reach a certain level of, like, you have to be as strong as Goku to really see the world the way that he does, and to experience things the way he does and empathize with him. And so the only people that he can really form any kind of meaningful, true connection with are people on his level, fellow strongest. But And so in that moment, Super Saiyan 3 Goku is as strong as was relative to Kid Buu. And so there is an understanding between them. There is a connection and I don't know if it's mutual, because Buu seems like pretty bestial. I don't know if he's like maintaining, like reciprocating, so to speak. But Goku definitely feels some sort of a kinship with him, right? Which is why he's wants to resurrect him and fight him again. So that being said, though, we know that like Super Saiyan 3 Goku is not as strong as, I think we've established that pretty well, that he's not as strong as Mystic Gohan. He's definitely not as strong as Vegito. Yeah. I think this is somewhat open to interpretation. You could probably dispute what I just said. I don't think it's like I did a great job of articulating my point, honestly. But yeah, what he says, you fought hard all by yourself. I hope you get reincarnated as a good guy so I can fight you one-on-one. I'll be training and waiting. So yeah, on some level he like respects the fact that Buu is, you know, he and Vegeta are the only pure-blooded Saiyans left in the universe, right? And so I think this is more true for Vegeta than Goku, but they're still Saiyans. They still have this shared sense of, you know, being a part of a proud, lonely warrior race that there aren't very many left of, that are really built to fight. Like the whole purpose of his life is to fight strong people, essentially. Or at least it's a major driving force for his character. I don't know if it's his whole purpose, but you know what I mean. And so now he's encountered somebody else who is a quote-unquote alien species, who is the only member of his race, as far as anybody knows, who was created, you know, primarily as a weapon. And he's existing and fighting against the strongest other things in the universe, testing himself. So there is a genuine respect between Goku and Buu, despite everything, despite the fact that they're enemies, and despite the fact that he's, you know, evil, supposedly, but I mean, definitely, but you know, there's still that respect there. So is Super Saiyan 3 Goku on par with Kid Buu and vice versa? Yes, absolutely. Are they the strongest in the universe at that time? Yes. Granted, Goku's not in Super Saiyan 3 right now either, so you could be pedantic about this and try to dispute that. But overall, if you say Goku as a fighter and Kid Buu as a fighter, in their respective strongest forms, they're probably equivalent, relevant, relative, and all that. But does that mean that Goku is the strongest in the universe? Yeah, at that moment, sure. But stronger than Mystic Buu? I mean, like, even that in and of itself, right? Do we think that definitively Goku is stronger than Super Gotenks or Mystic Gohan in Super Saiyan 3? If not, then that statement comes into question. I think that's pretty much it. It's so hard to articulate. It's easier when we're being like Naruto and Kakuzu and Sakura. Like, for some reason, all that stuff, like the names just flow off the tongue more easily and they seem more discreet. It's like Super Buu or Super Buu Tanks or Super Go Buu Han Super 3 Saiyan. It's like everything just gets kind of jumbled up. Also, I love this. I love all these panels. It's great. It's a really satisfying conclusion to the series. Do people hate the Buu series? Like, I feel like I keep hearing that people having takes about like, oh, the Buu series ruined Dragon Ball. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really see that. I guess that the absorptions and the Potara and the fusion, I don't understand why that would get like a little irritating, but ruin the series? No. So many like supers and Uzanas. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Aw, Mr. Satan's receding hairline. Forgot about that. Okay, well, I think that's gonna be it for me for now. starting to flag a little bit. Need to get some rest. But this was super fun. Obviously, took me a little while to kind of sort out my thoughts, so I appreciate y'all being patient as I figured stuff out on the fly and providing like some context and some scans and conversation. It was all super great as always. If you have any last minute questions or challenges or anything like that, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna ramble for a second about like plans for the upcoming week and stuff like that. So current plan at the moment is to go back to some Naruto conversation next week. I still like my current only goal, so to speak, is to get through the brutal honesty Kakuzu versus Pain video, just because we're a good chunk through and there's still a lot of stuff to talk about. And then after that we can, I'll take people's opinions on if you still want to talk about more like Kakuzu versus Pain stuff or move on to other topics. But I think that'll be a good place to, or like I really want to get through the whole thing and kind of finish the discussion in that regard. Might be fun to talk about multiversal Naruto at some point. I need to, like, I'm getting I need a break from noodle stuff for a little bit, but the multiversal arguments like video that he did with Seth is probably worth addressing at some point too. So, but depends. Open to other topics, open to jumping around a little bit. In regards to the gaming stuff, I'm still gonna keep the Thursday stream for now. I've been enjoying Elden Ring. I do want to get at least to the to Godric and wrap that up, but I kind of don't want to miss out on the Return to Drang Lake thing, so I might try to do a couple of Dark Souls 2 streams just to participate in that, and then get back to Elden Ring the next week or the week after. But as always, let me know if you have any comments or any suggestions, any debates you want me to check out. I will try to get the Discord server up and running by the next Naruto stream, so by the next Sunday, so people can chat in there, share scans and all that. And I think that's going to be it. H&H says, alrighty, was fun, gonna work on the Naruto server, then sleep. Nice stream. Yeah, good luck with all that. Thank you for the damn, sorry, bad timing. Thank you for the engagement, thank you for the conversation. I hope everything goes well with that, and hope you have a good night's sleep and a good rest of your week. I'll see you next time.